I'm going to grab it for you. Just 1 second. And you just need the link, right? Not the embed code. Okay.
Oh, no.
Hey, everyone. Just so you know, we are live on YouTube, and we will be sharing a YouTube link to Facebook.
No, I don't think there is.
Streaming live on Facebook is not working right now. So we're streaming live to YouTube.
I'll post the link too.
And then we will be sharing that YouTube link on our Facebook page. I know it sounds complicated. People will still be able to access the meeting at Macon-Bibb.us. I've just sent that to you and Kai, if you want to. I emailed the YouTube link. Just 1 second. And you're good making that post on Facebook?
Yep.
Okay. Let me go to. All right. Hey, everyone in attendance, anyone watching on YouTube. This is Rachel Gamble with Macon-Bibb County Public Affairs. Normally, typically, when technology agrees with us, we would be live streaming on Facebook, but that is not the case today. So we are live streaming to YouTube. We will be sharing that YouTube link on our Facebook page. So people will still be able to access the meeting from our Facebook page. We will also, as always, have it live streaming at Macon-Bibb.us. If y'all will give us just a minute to get this all set up, we're about ready. Just so y'all know, we are waiting to be up and running at Macon-Bibb.us, so people will be able to access the meeting there on our website. I'll keep you posted. Michael, can you hear me better like this? Is that better? Okay. Hey everyone watching on YouTube. We are streaming live tonight to YouTube rather than Facebook because Facebook and Zoom did not want to cooperate with one another. So we are streaming live on YouTube. There is a link to that on our Facebook page, so anyone can still access it. We also will have the link up and running for the meeting to show live at Macon-Bibb.us. As soon as we confirm that the audio is working there, we will be good to go. Thank you. We are good to go whenever you are, Mr. Mayor.
Good. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Let me call to order this pre-commission meeting of the Macon-Bibb County Commission for Tuesday, October 20th. Read this little notice statement first. Out of an abundance of caution, Macon-Bibb County Commission meetings scheduled for Tuesday, October the 20th, 2020 at 5:00 p.m. and 6:00 p.m. will be available to the Macon-Bibb County Commissioners by video conference only. The commission chambers will be closed to the public and the press in order to slow the spread of COVID-19. Therefore, the public and press may only access the meeting simultaneously online at www.maconbibb.us or go to our Facebook page, www.facebook.com/Macon-Bibb County, and find the link there that'll take you to YouTube, where we're live streaming on YouTube as well. It looks like we have all of our commissioners present, with the exception of Mayor Pro Tem Tillman. I do not have Mayor Pro Tem Tillman, but he may be calling in. Mayor Pro Tem, are you there? Not yet.
No, I think he was.
Okay, well, that's fine, but we've got more than a quorum. All the other commissioners are here with us. We need to add a couple of things to our pre-commission agenda. There are 2 late arriving alcohol licenses to add for our consent agenda. The first is for Blazing Paddles. I didn't say saddles. I said Blazing Paddles LLC. And the second is for Southern Star LLC. Can I add those 2 to the agenda for discussion, please?
So moved.
Second.
Got a motion and second. Thank you.
What does that mean?
That just means we're going to add them for discussion to the consent.
I mean, blazing
paddles. We'll get to that. We'll get to that momentarily.
Have to tell
all
me.
right. So, this is going to be a good meeting, I can tell. But we've got, before we get to that, we've got several important announcements that I know that you'll want to hear about. The first is from Judge Jeffrey Hanson, the senior judge at the State Court of Bibb County. Judge Hanson, are you there, sir?
I am.
Good, good. Let me call on you to update us on the status of activities and actions in the State Court of Bibb County. Please, sir.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Mayor and Commissioners. It's a pleasure to be with you, and good to see all of you and the staff as well. I just had asked Dr. Moffitt if I could have just a couple of minutes to let you know the Chief Justice of the Georgia Supreme Court has authorized courts to resume jury trials under certain conditions if certain precautions are taken. And in the state court, part of the jury trials we do are 6-person jury trials, which are much more manageable than a 12-person jury trial. And these are particularly in misdemeanor cases. And we are looking at starting those again in December, depending on what happens with the trends and the COVID numbers. To start in December, that means we need to send out juror summonses this week or next week. And so it was concerning to us that if we send out those summonses, you may start getting some calls from people wanting to know what's going on and want to make sure you know what's going on. So the first thing I want to say is that I'm not sure we'll actually have jury trials in December, but we want to be able to do that if the numbers support it. There are things that we're doing, we're working with the Department of Health. We're working with the CDC guidelines. We're working with the Judicial Council COVID Task Force that's come out with recommendations about what we should do. And if we go forward with it, the first thing I want you to know is that the thing that you think about that comes to your mind when you think of jury duty and serving jury duty is not going to be what we're doing, because I've served on jury duty numerous times, and immediately I think of, I'm sitting in a room with 100 other people, and we're crowded in there, and we sit there for hours waiting to see what's going to happen. And in state court, that's not what we're going to do. Again, this would be 6-person juries, and so we would only bring in about 20 people. We wouldn't bring in a whole group for a whole week. We would just bring in 20 people for one trial, pick 6 of those, dismiss the rest. All of them will be social distance, wearing masks. We're going to have plexiglass up in the jury box to protect jurors, and sanitizing the space, providing sanitizer, lots of things. And we're going to include this information in the summons we send out so that people will know. But I wanted you to be aware of what was happening. And if you do get any calls, please tell people if they have any concern, then contact us, because we're going to be receptive to that and going to be listening to them and being generous with deferring and excusing people. Second is send them to our website, because we're going to have lots of information on the website. And then the third thing is let them know, even if they get a summons, that doesn't mean we will be in touch with them, because we may be canceling this, but we just can't make that call right now. So we wanted to let them know that we are doing the summons, but we may not do the trials. And I'm happy to answer any questions that anybody has.
Well, Judge, let me say thank you very much for this update. I'm sure that you have already answered a lot of questions, but commissioners, any other commissioner have a question, comment, or thought that they wanted to share with Judge Hanson about this? If not, Judge, thank you very much for this update. We appreciate that. We appreciate all of the efforts that you are making to accommodate people who want to have their issue heard by a jury, and yet at the same time accommodating the prospective jurors who have concerns about their safety, et cetera. So sounds like you've got a good handle on it, and thank you for this update, sir.
Sure. Thank you for the opportunity. If anybody does have questions, I'm always available. Just let me know.
Thank you, Judge.
We like the mustache and the beard.
It's something new for me, but
the new look.
We'll see how long it lasts. Thank you all.
Thank you, Judge. Next, the governor has issued an additional executive order. Let me call on Michael McNeil at this point to give us an update on the governor's most recent executive order. Michael.
Thank you, Mayor. On Thursday, the 15th, Governor Kemp there were 2 new executive orders relating to COVID-19. The first order was his 9th Empowering a Healthy Georgia order. It began Friday the 16th and expires on October 31st at midnight. And it just makes a few minor changes, nothing real major this time. There were some provisions that were in previous orders that extended certain deadlines. For example, there was a provision that had been in one of the first orders he issued that said if you were a restaurant and you got an A on your last health inspection, then you can postpone your next health inspection for up to 120 days if your next health inspection was scheduled before September 10th. Well, September 10th is now passed, so he removed that language and he's not allowing those extensions anymore. For amusement ride operators, he relaxed the requirement that patrons have to sit every other row in amusement rides like roller coasters or things like that. Now they can sit in every row. He added a requirement for volunteer firefighters and volunteer fire departments to say that the minimum number of credible service hours, meetings, and drills that they have to do every year is suspended for calendar year 2020. And there was another previous provision that related to summer camps, license exempt summer camps that were allowed to operate during the school year as remote learning centers. He's removed that provision, so those presumably can no longer operate on a license exempt basis. That's really all the substantive changes that I saw for the Empowering a Healthy Georgia order. He also issued a second order, which repealed a provision of an order he issued way back in March that allowed for trucks driving on Georgia highways to carry a much heavier load than normal if they were carrying goods for disaster relief purposes. So he's repealed that provision. And so effective as of this past Friday, just the standard weight policies for trucks on highways apply now. It's all that's back to normal. So that's really all the changes that we have. We're still under a state of emergency through November 9th. And I would anticipate a follow-up order to come probably around the end of next week that would both set the governing rules for the following 2 weeks and also clarify whether he's going to extend the state of emergency into December. Mr. Mayor?
Questions of any commissioner of Michael about the governor's latest order? Hearing none, then let me go on and call on Spencer Hawkins to kind of give us an update, unfortunately, on our deteriorating numbers. Spencer, are you there?
Yes, sir. I'm here.
All right, so go ahead and give us an update on where we stand with COVID.
Well, you are correct. We were doing really well. Overall case averages, July the 12th, we had a case average high of 110. We were able to work very diligently together as a community, and we got that down to 11 about the 23rd of September. But very quickly after that, these numbers began to go up from the 23rd of September until the latest 2-week update that we have, which is 6 October. We currently sit at 21.1 case average. So we've gone up about 10 case average in 10 days. So it's a case a day that we've gone up recently. The cases per 100,000, we had a case high and on August 31st, this is the average, of 845 at the end of August. We were able to get that down to about 140 on the 4th or 5th of October. But we've gone back up and we now sit at 202, which is the cases per 100,000. What we're attributing this to for talking with public health and our other health partners is twofold, is that, there's more of the rapid antibody tests that are being done. So we're finding out that more people who are asymptomatic have COVID. And the second part is just people are tired. They no longer want to socially distance. They no longer want to wear masks. And we're seeing that in our community. We're seeing these numbers go up, and it's not just Macon-Bibb County. It is the Region F Health District here in Central Georgia. It's the state of Georgia, United States. All of our numbers are going up. And so we need to continue to talk about socially distanced, wearing a mask, washing your hands. We are coming up to the holiday season very quickly. CDC is already recommending, Dr. Anthony Fauci put it out, this year is not the year for the big holiday feasts, unfortunately. Keep it small, keep it just to those folks that you cohabitate with. When we talk about family, or it needs to be those folks that you cohabitate with. I know we all have big extended families, but if they don't live with you, they're not sharing your same germs. We need to keep it close. That's where we are with the numbers, sir.
Spencer, thank you for that. And also, I should call on Dr. Moffitt and say, and even though our numbers are coming up, we are still maintaining our current status of restrictions and facilities and this, that, or the other, but we'll be watching them very closely to see whether or not we need to change that. Dr. Moffitt, anything you need to add to that, sir?
No, sir. Just a point. We have made a decision a while back about this year's Christmas parade. I do believe that the media was going to run a story on it today. So I wanted to notify you today that we will not be doing the Christmas parade this year because it takes a long time to pull all that together. And with the uncertainty of where we're going to be in December, we just feel that it's in an abundance of caution that we will not schedule it for this year.
Mr. Mayor.
Okay. Yes, sir. Mr. Allen, that's you?
Yeah. Yes, sir. This goes to questions to Spencer. Do we have an age limit of who's been mostly inclined to get it, COVID?
I can pull that up real quick, but I mean, it's while I'm getting that information, we do know that a majority of those cases, were in the older age group. They're the higher rate for deaths. But what we're seeing now is a huge increase in the 18 to 29 demographic. That's just been, for the last several weeks, that's been the quickest group that's growing as far as who's getting COVID and who's reporting it back.
Spencer, are you showing any death in the 18 to 29? Or are they getting over it?
I will have to dig into those numbers, but it's from what I think from what I've looked at it's a very, very small number of those 18 to 29. But the concern is the 18 to 29-year-olds get it, they're a carrier, they recover, but then they pass it along to their elderly relatives.
Right.
They can't recover.
And can I add that they end up with lingering kinds of situations like heart problems and other kinds of things in the younger ones is what I've been that's the information I have. The older ones die in larger numbers, but the younger ones end up with, lingering serious situations, blood clots, things like that.
You're correct, Commissioner. We're finding now that we've had the disease here for not a year yet, but we're finding out that there is, even after you recover, there is the potential for some lifelong health issues with COVID, whether it's heart, lungs. So yeah, you may recover, but you're going to be dealing with COVID for a very long time.
Any other commissioner have a question or comment to Spencer?
Yes, Mr. Mayor, this is Commissioner Wynn.
Go ahead.
Spencer, I believe I've asked this question before, but we don't have any way of finding out where hot spots might be, right?
Right now, we're still in substantial community spread throughout all of Macon-Bibb County. And so it is everywhere. And I mean, obviously congregate facilities are going to be a hot spot. So, places like the jail, like long-term care facilities are going to be your higher points of interest. But what we're seeing now is that things are being transmitted much more quickly via the evening barbecue or the child's birthday party or things like that, where once again you think, well, I'm with family, but you don't live with those folks and you don't know where they have been, and it just exacerbates the problem.
I know that, or I believe I understand that funerals are letting people come. A lot of times they're outside funerals, but I don't know if things like that are affecting it too.
Any outside, obviously outside is better than inside, right. But anytime you're with a gathering of more than a handful of people, you need to socially distance, wear a mask, you need to be safe.
Thank you.
Good. Any other questions, comments of Spencer? If not, Spencer, keep us posted, and yes, I hope there's no bad weather on the way.
Not right now, sir. Thank you.
Very good. Well, keep us posted. And now, not meaning to pop anybody's bubble, but Julie Moore has an update for us on CARES funding. You may have heard this previously, but I wanted Julie just to be available to give us the news and then be able to answer any questions that you may have. Julie, give us an update on CARES relief funding.
Yes. We were informed last week from the state of Georgia governor's office that we will not be receiving the second round of funding, which would have been another $18 million that we would have received due to eligible reimbursements that we would have been seeking, and plan to spend that, by December 31st. So I know some of the initial conversation that you all had about some of the other areas that we might be able to support folks throughout the community was kind of tied to thinking we would be getting some of that $18 million. Just as a reminder, the first $8 million we received, about $2 million of that went back to public health through River's Edge and the Department of Public Health, as well as some testing equipment for the hospital. Another about $2 million of that was really directly related to expenses that we incurred as the government for PPE that we've purchased and distributed to the community, some of the equipment we needed to make sure that our employees could work from home, and then the rest of that funding came from reimbursements for public safety expenditures as allowed by the CARES Act. I know that you're considering some issues tonight and probably next week about money that could be spent, but I just wanted to make sure you understand that money will be coming from the general fund at this point. And while you've put out some good information of ways that we might be able to spend it, you have had several people reach out who would like to be reimbursed for computers they bought for children in schools, for PPE they've spent at local businesses, for food that they've spent through some of their social outreach services. So just know as you do give out, there's going to be others standing right behind there that have some ideas of how that money could be spent if you decide to distribute it in that way.
Questions or comments of Julie?
So I guess we'll have the conversation a little bit later, but I think it is important to get some of it. We have, I guess in a couple of weeks ago, y'all supported our legislation to allocate about $4 million toward things to help with CARES Act. I think it's very unfortunate that the governor has reneged on that previous promise of the 18 million, but we have received 8 million. And COVID is very real in our community. I would, at minimum, with the distance learning stuff, to proceed forward with what we have on the table. I can completely understand everyone to reduce numbers and working within some other parameters. But I do think we do have very real needs that still need to be addressed as it relates to food distribution, distance learning, and also what we're gonna do with the PPE and distance learning stuff. So I don't think just because this decision, and I think he did it for what I think to be a good reason to continue to support the unemployment expenses, if I'm understanding correctly. But yeah,
Okay, I'm sure we'll have a spirited conversation about this. Yeah, I'm sure we'll have a spirited conversation about this later. But any other questions or comments of Julie? If not, Julie, thank you very much. Next item on our agenda is for me to review the agenda for tonight's commission meeting. But if you would permit me, let me jump over that, because we've got these consent agenda items. There are 4 of them that I'm sure you'll want to hear about. And we have a piece of new business to allow the Board of Elections to receive a grant that we need to get to. It's a time-sensitive matter there. So without objection, then let me talk about the consent agenda. There are 4 items on the consent agenda. I don't think any of them are of serious issue or present serious issues. The first is a change of ownership only. It is an existing club that serves liquor and beer. This is a change of ownership, and it is for Xavier Entertainment, spelled Xavier, Xavier Entertainment LLC, doing business as Club Dream, located at 840 MLK Junior Boulevard here in Macon. Like I say, it is, again, for liquor, mixed drinks to be consumed on the premises at that location. And as you might imagine, and I'm not going to say this but once, it is accompanied by the sheriff's certification of a satisfactory background check of the applicant, the appropriate license fees having been tendered, planning and zoning compliance, and the measurement certificate from the county engineer, and the ad that ran in the paper. So any questions about Xavier Entertainment change of ownership? If not, let me move on to a new restaurant. This I think is a new location, but it's for another Margaritas Bar and Grill LLC. They are opening a premise at 4328 Hartley Bridge Road in Macon, a restaurant. And they want to be able to serve liquor, mixed drinks, beer, and wine to be consumed on the premises as you eat your enchilada or whatever you get at the Mexican restaurant. But that is a new location, as I understand it, on Hartley Bridge Road. But again, got all of the information required to support the license. The next one, the next one is for Blazing Paddles. And I did not say saddles. I said Blazing Paddles, Paddles. And as I understand it, Blazing Paddles is a glass blowing studio where they actually blow glass, glasses, vases, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. But this is not for people that are down there trying to practice and do it themselves. This is for people that are there to see an exhibit of glassware that they have done. And so they want to sell beer to be consumed on the premises when they have these exhibits. It is located at 1055 Riverside Drive, Suite A. 1055 Riverside Drive, Suite A. Blazing Paddles, a startup doing business as Startup Studios. Glass blowing place, beer consumed on the premise at that location.
Mr. Mayor, Mr. Mayor,
Yes, Commissioner. Yes, Commissioner Wynn.
do you know where that is on Riverside Drive?
No, but I bet I could find out right quick. Oh, but wait a minute. Rachel says she knows. Rachel,
it is right. It's right next to Rose Hill Cemetery. If you're looking at Rose Hill from the street from Riverside, it's in that building to the right. There's a big sign that says Startup Studios. Mm-hmm.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay, so that's Blazing Paddles, and the final one, and this is one that we've been around with once before. This is for Southern Star LLC, doing business as Amstar 16 at 5996 Zebulon Road. We went round and round with them because they wanted to serve beer and wine.
Yep.
Well, that's done well for them, and people have asked, and now they want to add liquor, mixed drinks to that. Now let me just remind everybody, we've been around and round, and I'll actually call on the attorney so that I don't say anything wrong. Michael, remind us of what happened when Amstar 16 applied for the beer and wine license.
So, yeah, sure, Mr. Mayor. So the last time the commission recommended denial of the license, we sent a notice. They asked for a hearing. We had a hearing with a special master that was appointed, and got the sheriff's office involved, got them to pull 911 calls, pull all their records. And the special master basically found that there was no basis to deny an alcohol license to Southern Star. And so based on that, we came back to the commission. We reported the special master's findings. And at that time, the commission voted to grant that license.
So that's where we are. And questions, comments. Obviously, it's got all of the necessary documentation, having been through this not too awful long ago. But this would add an additional $2,900 fee annually for liquor mixed drinks to serve at Amstar, and subject, I'm sure, to the same requirement, wristbands and this, that, other that they articulated. However, if any commissioner wants and to have them come in and talk again, we can do that too, and ask for more information, because this is a late arrival, I'll say that, but they are anxious to have this passed. Questions, comments, or concerns?
Yes, Mr. Mayor. I was one that didn't care for this proposal. And again, I don't care for this. Are they going to have a bartender that's a licensed bartender there to issue these drinks? And yeah, I'd like to have them come in, by the way, if this is a late arrival for our agenda.
Yeah, I can't answer that question. I don't know what they're going to do. I would certainly think it would be somebody that has to have the required course for alcohol handlers license. Got to be that.
Bring them in. Bring them back, Mr. Mayor.
I want to bring them back so we can just let them
bring them back.
Please.
Okay, oh, yeah, that's fine. So let me just ask you this way then. Can I get a motion as to the first three to put them on the final agenda for tonight, and then we'll take a separate vote on Amstar.
So moved.
Okay. I've got Commissioner Wynn and Allen seconded. Do pass the first three. That's Xavier Entertainment, the existing club, the new Margaritas Grill on Hartley Bridge Road, and Blazing Paddles on Riverside Drive for beer at exhibits. All in favor of putting those on the agenda for action tonight, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say no. Okay, those will be on the agenda for tonight, those three. As far as the Southern Star LLC, I understand that several commissioners want additional information, so we'll table that for right now and ask them to come in. Okay, got a motion by Lucas to table and second by Wynn. So all in favor of tabling this for additional information, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say no.
At least slow it down a bit.
The ayes have it, and so this is tabled and will not be taken up at the 6 o'clock meeting. Last item is an item of new business that I want to call on the attorney and perhaps Julie, if she's still here, to talk about this grant of $557,598 that was received by the Macon-Bibb Board of Elections from the Center for Tech and Civic Life. Michael, Duke, Julie, anybody be able to tell me more about that and what it was for?
Mr. Mayor, I can maybe talk about it a little bit. This is the grant that was applied for by our Board of Elections. It is a private nonprofit organization that is providing money around the nation to help with local elections, for education, for additional services and resources. It's funding that will be good through the end of the year, December 31st, 2020. So it also covers post-election expenses if there are any. One particular part of this grant to be aware of is that it cannot supplant previously budgeted funds. So anything that was already in the budget for Board of Elections has to remain funded by those sources. This would be an additional amount of money.
And Michelle, there's no local match, right?
No local match, correct.
Other questions, comments, or concerns from legal or anybody?
I just want to say I'm very, very happy. I'm surprised at the amount, but it shows the commitment of some of these nonprofit organizations in trying to support individual citizens and help the boards of elections to work against voter suppression. And so I just think it's wonderful that our local board qualified, and I can just see a lot of creative things that they can come up with to assist voters in making it easier. And they've already seen the results of the additional satellite sites, second drop box, and other things that they've put in place. So I wanted to ask one question, and that is, that's just 2 months that they have to spend this money. Could we somehow give them more time to thoughtfully decide what they want to do with this money rather than just spending it very quickly? That's a lot of money, and we've already funded almost $500,000 ourselves for these additional things for the Board of Elections. So I'm wondering, is there a way that we can kind of bank this money for them and still accept it, but allow them more time to utilize it thoughtfully?
I've had a conversation with Ms. Watson and trying to figure out what they had originally intended to spend the money, because when they submitted the application, they did have to submit the budgeted items that they were looking for. And she said that she used a lot of the things that we ultimately ended up doing a supplemental to support. And so she was going to be looking for some additional items and was trying to get that information to me today, but you can imagine that she's very busy with all that they have going on. So I am expecting that information today now. But she did have a couple of interesting ideas, some things that I think some other Board of Elections have purchased, which includes maybe a kind of a plug and play set of equipment and the way that it's secured, and a new vendor that's come on that they think they might be able to invest in. I think we'll have a hard time reaching back and getting anything that we ended up budgeting for because of the supplant paragraph. And it's really up to the private foundation for the deadline of December 31st, but we will be working with them to make sure that we can do things very quickly with any new ideas they have of the ways that they can spend the money to access and utilize the majority of that the best we can.
Any other questions? Any other questions or comments? If not, can I get a motion?
I got a question.
Commissioner Allen, go ahead. Got a question.
Thank you. This is to Julie. Julie, we've looked at about putting other polling places out. Could we look at, I know we needed some new machines. Could that be part of it? Voting machines?
One of the things that Ms. Watson is considering are some of the new machines. And again, it's kind of like a group of all the pieces of equipment they need under this new system packaged together. And that is what she's researching to see what she can get.
Well, I know they talked about doing the new package. And that was going to be very, very expensive. Could we actually spend this money before that and use it in the future?
I think we could, especially if we get into a runoff situation.
Yeah. Okay.
Move to approve.
I second that. I think it's a good idea.
Got a motion from Schlesinger and a second by Allen. Further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor of the resolution signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say no. The ayes have it, and that'll be added as an item under the old business category in our main commission meeting tonight. We've still got a few minutes before 6 o'clock, so let me turn to the item on our agenda that I jumped over, which is a review of the agenda for tonight. I think I can do that fairly quickly, but just to remind everybody, Commissioner Allen has agreed to give our invocation to start. Then we've got the minutes to be approved from the pre-commission and regular commission meeting of October the 6th. If you need time to go back and look at those, make any changes or corrections, we'll have a report from all four of our committees, I believe. And Chairman Watkins, I assume you'll give the report for operations and finance. Chairman Lucas, I assume you'll give the report for economic and community development. Chairman Wynn, I suppose you'll give us the report for public safety, and Commissioner Jones, you'll give the report for facilities and engineering, correct? All right.
Yes.
We got one public comment that I am going to construe as being on an agenda item, but only for the reason so she won't have to wait for an hour or so. And the item is on the agenda, but it's on there for referral. It's a street light item that we're going to refer to committee, but I'm going to say that even on the referral calendar, we can let this lady go ahead and speak before we get into old business. So we got one item that we'll read, and I guess, Michael, do you have the email that she sent in? Okay, so Michael will read the email from this lady about this item to be referred for streetlights in a subdivision, and I can't even call the name of the subdivision. Then we'll go to the consent agenda where we've got the first three items, but we'll table the fourth item for additional information. Then we'll go on to old business. There are a series of appointments. First being Ron Griffin to the Macon-Bibb County Urban Development Authority. That was heard and recommended by Economic and Community Development. I don't know about Charlie J. Charlie J has had some health issues in his family and has not been able to be with us and cannot be with us tonight now. So Chairman Lucas, I'll leave this up to you, whether you want to delay his appointment to the Keep Macon-Bibb Beautiful Commission or what you want to do with it.
No, we don't need to delay it this late in the term. If any committee member has objections, that's another thing, but I don't think anybody has any objections to us.
Well, good. I think most of us know who Charlie J is, and he's got a great record of service in the community, and especially on the Keep Macon-Bibb Beautiful Commission, and they wanted him on there. But so good, we'll have that there, and we'll say that Economic and Community Development Committee recommends approval. Next one is Kathleen Fortney to the Keep Macon-Bibb Beautiful Commission. She was on the line, and Economic and Community Development recommends her appointment. Next is George Thomas Jr. to the Arbor Conservation Board. Economic and Community Development heard that, recommends approval. Next is a resolution that we will read in its entirety for a Breast Cancer Awareness Month. This is a resolution sponsored by Commissioners Lucas and Wynn. So we'll read that in its entirety and then vote on that. Next item is item F, and it's a grant of $23,400 for pedestrian on the move program. This is something like the third consecutive year that the Governor's Office of Highway Safety has given us this pedestrian grant. Public Safety Committee recommends approval. Did Public Safety have that? Or was it Economic and Community Development one? I'm sorry.
It probably
should have been either one, but it was on that committee.
Right. So Economic and Community Development recommends approval there. Item G is a grant of $73,535 with no local match. Edward Byrne Justice Grant for the Sheriff's Office for forensic science training and equipment purchases for the Adult Drug Court Counselor Services. Public Safety did hear that and recommends approval. Item H is the HEAT grant, $142,868 with no local match for HEAT officers and equipment. The Public Safety Committee recommends approval there. Item I is a resolution authorizing the acceptance of an explosive ordnance unit grant and some money for veterinary care for the dog. Public Safety Committee recommends approval there. Item J is a resolution to approve the exercise of eminent domain to acquire in fee simple the blighted property on Monroe Street next door to the Booker T. Washington Center. Facilities and Engineering Committee heard that and recommends approval. Item K is an ordinance to approve a supplemental appropriation for the transfer of $28,504,740 from the general fund balance to multiple funds in the FY21 budget to account for outstanding purchase orders. Operations and Finance Committee heard that, recommends approval. Item L is an ordinance to amend the FY 2020 general fund budget to $169,693,599 in revenues and expenses, which is a additional supplemental appropriation of $697,000 to amend the 2020 budgets and make them come out right. The Operations and Finance Committee recommends approval there. Item M is an ordinance to authorize a supplemental budget appropriation from the 2020 fund balance to the Macon-Bibb County Welfare, Macon-Bibb Transit Authority line item, $807,403 in order to provide 45 days of operating expense with the bi-party agreement. In accordance with that, Operations and Finance recommends approval. Item N is an ordinance to authorize supplemental budget appropriation from fund balance to various departments in the amount of $3,591,446 in order to provide for reinstatement of the previously budgeted furlough days. Operations and Finance heard that and recommends approval. Item O is an ordinance to to authorize supplemental budget appropriation from fund balance for the Macon-Bibb County Facilities Management Department, transfers out capital line item amount of $63,295 in order to provide for purchase of security systems for government center. Operations and Finance heard that, recommends approval. Item P is a resolution authorizing the mayor to execute a professional services agreement with GMAS Incorporated in the amount of $143,500 annually for 3 years for maintenance of real property pricing schedules to be paid out of the tax assessor's budget contract label contractual service line item. Operations and Finance heard that, recommends approval. Item Q is a resolution authorizing the mayor to execute a memorandum of understanding with the Bibb County School District for the provision of up to $765,000 in funds for the purpose of supporting efforts to develop equitable remote learning. Operations and Finance Committee heard that and recommends approval. There was some discussion about that in pre-commission, so I'm sure there may be some additional discussion about that when we get into that's item Q. Item R is a resolution authorizing the mayor to execute a professional services agreement with geotechnical environmental consultants, $8,675 for testing of materials and special inspections needed in phase 3 of Freedom Park. Operations and Finance heard that, recommends approval. Item S is a resolution to approve Amendment 27A to the SPLOST project timeline. Operations and Finance Committee heard that and recommends approval. As I recall, that was for the fields down at Carroll and Creighton Park, and they had to move some money forward in order to pay for the revisions to the fields at Carroll and Creighton Park. But Operations and Finance Committee heard that, recommends approval. Item T is a resolution authorizing the mayor to execute a commercial lease agreement for $45,000 a year for office space located at 127, 129 of First Street for the Georgia Cooperative Extension Service, the facilities that they use. Operations and Finance Committee heard that, recommends approval. Item U is an ordinance to authorize supplemental budget appropriation from fund balance in order to provide municipal court for some additional furniture, $5,500. Operations and Finance heard that and recommends approval. Item V is an ordinance to authorize a supplemental budget appropriation from fund balance for the Macon-Bibb County Tax Commissioner in an amount of $35,000 in order to provide for the purchasing of licensing management software. Operations and Finance Committee recommends approval. Item W, an ordinance to authorize a budget transfer of $7,000 from the tax
I just remind
assessor.
everyone to please mute your microphone if you're not speaking. We're hearing some cross noise here. Thank you.
$7,000 from the tax assessor salaries and wages full-time line item to contractual services to provide for a contractor to perform mapping services relating to preparation of the FY 2021 tax digest. Operations and Finance Committee recommends approval. Item X is an ordinance to provide budget supplementals, total amount of $519,742.94 from fund balance to various departments to provide for some additional vacancies to be filled in organizational charts. The Operations and Finance Committee, excuse me, heard that and recommended an amendment to it. So this is as amended coming out of Operations and Finance. Excuse me. And then Y is a resolution authorizing the mayor to accept this grant for the Board of Elections that we just talked about, $557,000. Any questions or comments? I'm not going to try to read the new business, but I'll read that during the meeting. But we don't have but about 4 or 5 items of new business at this point.
Mayor Rickard.
Yes, sir. Commissioner Jones.
I thought item X was probably the committee amendment that I was, you had sponsored, I'm sponsoring, whoever wants to sponsor it doesn't matter. So I thought that's what that was. Are we going to just, I wanted to make a motion to add that to the agenda. Is that what item X is?
Item X is the actual amendment as it came out of committee, which took out about 4 positions from different, I can't remember them, but that was the amendment to take out those 4. It's my understanding that you have an amendment to the amended to reinstate some or all of those. Is that right?
Yes, sir. So
Okay. I do not think we need to discuss that here. That would be inappropriate for a motion on the floor to make an amendment. And if you've got it in writing to restore that, right, you just would say so at that time when we get to that point in the main meeting.
Okay, Michael's got it in writing, so he'll provide it.
Yeah.
Okay. Any other questions, comments about the agenda for tonight? Ought to be fairly quick and easy, right? That's all of the business. We've reached the end of this agenda. So what I'm going to do is give everybody a comfort break of about 5 minutes. I'm going to just leave your screen running. Everything's going to be running, but we'll take about a 4-minute comfort break and come back to start at 6 o'clock for the main meeting. So the pre-commission meeting is adjourned.
Yeah, that's it. What's the email lady? Let's email lady.
Hey, so Matt, what?
All right, good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Let me call to order at 6:03, according to the clock on the wall, this regular meeting of the Macon-Bibb County Commission for October the 20th of 2020. First item on our agenda is to have an invocation, and our own Commissioner Allen has agreed to do that for us. Commissioner Allen, let me call on you for an invocation, please, sir.
Thank you, sir. Our dear, kind, most gracious and heavenly Father, dear Lord, you know the trouble we're in here on this earth that we're staying in. This COVID is killing so many people and making so many people sick. Please, dear Lord, help the doctors and the scientists and show them the right way to heal those that are in need. Dear Lord, we come into an end of a year, another year in 2020. It's been a hard year for all of us, especially in local governments, especially in our government. Dear Lord, as we come into this close of this year, let us go out with a hooray that we've done the right thing for the people of this community. Lord, show the new board members that are coming on and the new mayor the right way to follow, to go ahead and work for the people of this community as we've tried to in the past. And dear Lord, watch over all the children and all the citizens of this community and the world, that they may be able to live a life where they'll have food on the table and they'll have love in the family. We give it all the praise and the glory in your name, dear Lord. We ask it. Amen.
Amen. Thank you, Commissioner Allen. Next, I would like to ask the clerk to call the roll, just so we can confirm that we've got a quorum of people on the line. So when she calls your name, would you please unmute yourself and answer verbally so that we'll have a record of a quorum, please. Madam Clerk?
Yes, sir, Mr. Mayor. Mayor Pro Tem Tillman.
Here.
Commissioner Allen.
Here.
Commissioner Bivens.
Here.
Commissioner Jones.
Here.
Commissioner Lucas.
Here.
Commissioner Schlesinger.
Here.
Commissioner Shepard.
I'm looking at you.
I see him. He's there. He just ain't unmuted to say anything.
There he is.
There he goes.
Whoops.
You muted.
Yeah, but he said he's here.
I see. Commissioner Watkins.
Here.
And Commissioner Wynn. Oh, she's okay.
She was here.
But she's not now, but may be coming back momentarily. So we'll keep an eye. We'll keep an eye out for her. Okay. Also, I understand we've got Commissioner-elect Bill Howell, Commissioner-elect Raymond Wilder, and Mayor-elect Lester Miller on the call with us as well. Glad to have them. All right. With a quorum in place and approved, let me get a motion to approve the minutes for our pre-commission meeting of October the 6th, or our regular commission meeting. Are there any changes or corrections? If not, can I get a motion to approve the minutes?
So moved.
We got a motion by Schlesinger and a second by Wynn, I believe is who I heard next.
Yes, sir. I'm back.
Good. Thank you very much. You served a double purpose there. To approve the minutes. Further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor of approval of the minutes signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say no. Ayes have it, and the minutes are approved. That takes us to reports from our standing committees, and we have a report from all four of our standing committees tonight. So let me go first to Operations and Finance and call on Chairman Watkins to give us that report. Please, sir.
Thank you, sir. The Operations and Finance Committee met last on October the 13th and took the following actions. Following items were approved. $28.5 million from general fund balance to account for outstanding purchase orders was approved. We amended the general fund budget to $169,000 in total revenue and expenses, resulting in a supplemental appropriations of $697,000, and that was for the closeout of the fiscal year 2020. There was a supplemental budget appropriations from fund balance to the Macon Transit Authority in the amount of $807,403. The committee reinstated previously budgeted furlough $1 million. $63,295 was approved in order to provide for the purchase of security systems in the government center. An agreement with GMAS Inc. in the amount of $143,500 annually for 3 years for maintenance of real property pricing schedules to be paid from the tax assessor's budget. A budget supplemental in the amount of $519,742.94 from fund balance to various departments to amend the budgets and organizational charts. A memorandum of understanding with the Bibb County School District for the provision of up to $765,000 in funds to support the equitable remote learning capabilities of students and families in Macon-Bibb County that have been adversely affected by COVID-19. An agreement with geotechnical environmental consultants in the amount of $8,675 for testing of construction materials and special inspections needed for phase 3 of Freedom Park was approved. Amendment 27A to the 2018 SPLOST budget timeline was approved. A commercial lease contract with BSTPP in the amount of $45,000 for office space located at 127 and 129 in the upper level of 145 First Street to be occupied by the Georgia Cooperative Extension Services from October 1st through September 30th, 2021. A supplemental budget appropriations from fund balance to the Macon-Bibb County Tax Commissioner in the amount of $35,000 in order to provide for the purchase of licensing management software. A supplemental budget appropriations from fund balance to the Macon-Bibb Municipal Court in the amount of $5,500 in order to provide for the purchase of office furniture. A budget transfer of $7,000 from the tax assessor salaries and wages full-time line item to the tax assessor contractual services line in order to provide for a contractor to perform mapping services related to preparation of the FY 20 and 21 tax digesters. And this concludes our report.
Thank you, Chairman Watkins. Appreciate that report. Next is Economic and Community Development Committee, and I'll call on Chairman Lucas to give us that report. Chairman Lucas?
Thank you very much. The members of the Economic and Community Development Committee are Bivens, Watkins, Shepherd, Schlesinger, and Lucas. The Economic and Community Development Committee met on October 13th, 2020, and took the following actions. The committee approved the following appointments: Ryan Griffin as a member of the Urban Development Authority, Charles J. and Kathleen Fortney to the Keep Macon-Bibb Beautiful Board, George Thomas Jr. to the Arbor Conservation Board. The committee accepted a grant for $23,400 for the Pedestrian on the Move program under the Pedestrian Safety Review Board. The committee also recognized October as Breast Cancer Awareness Month. Ms. Carolyn Creighton introduced Caroline Childs, CC introduced CC as the new executive director of the Keep Macon-Bibb Beautiful organizations. And Mr. Mayor, I understand there are several more nominations that we need to approve very soon to Keep Macon-Bibb Beautiful, reappointments that they'll be getting to you.
Okay.
All right. One item that I wanted to mention, and that's the Board of Health. Your Board of Health met this morning via teleconference, and we also adopted the resolution in support of the observance of Breast Cancer Awareness Month. And we also took action to let this commission know that there is a state law that was passed, and some of you may be aware of it, that transfers the inspections of nonprofit food service to Macon-Bibb County. And so we were made aware of it and that we need to be concerned about that. And So I have asked representatives from the Board of Health to be at the next Economic and Community Development Committee meeting to go through an explanation of that and some possible ways that we could handle that new responsibility, which is an unfunded mandate. So I just wanted to bring that to everybody's attention, but it's very troubling to the Board of Health, and it should be to us, that we're going to be expected to take over nonprofit food inspections.
Chairman Lucas, thank you for that
This
report and
ends our report.
for that bit of information. And between now and next week, perhaps the attorneys can look at this and see about what we can do to comply with the health department inspections. Maybe we can outsource this to the health department with a separate contract.
Yeah.
So, Mr. Mayor,
Y'all start looking at that. Michael?
If I may, so Joel Collins in our office has already reviewed that legislation. It goes by the nickname, the sandwich bill, because of the origin story that brought it around. But he's familiar with that legislation. He'll be prepared to present to committee on Tuesday. And also, I just sent out an invite. There were a few other bills that came down this year that I just sent out an invite to Mayor and Dr. Moffett to do an update for them generally for next week. But that's something that we're aware of.
Excellent. Okay, so we're on top of that, and we'll have further information on the sandwich bill next week. Let me move on to the Public Safety Committee and call on Chairman Wynn to give us that report.
Yes,
Chairman
sir.
Wynn.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. The Public Safety Committee Chair met on October 13th, 2020 with members present of myself, the Chair, Vice Chair Jones, Commissioners Allen, Shepherd, and Watkins were all there. Shepherd came in a little late, but he was there. And we accepted, well, he was there. We accepted the following 3 grants. The Forensic Science Improvement Project Grant in the amount of $73,535 with no local match for the Bibb County Sheriff's Office for Forensic Science Training and Equipment Purchases and by the Bibb County Adult Drug Court for Counselor Services. The second grant was a FY 2020 Highway Enforcement Aggressive Tactics, or HEAT, grant from the Governor's Office of Highway Safety in the amount of $142,868 with no local match to provide for 3 patrol vehicles and fund salaries for 3 full-time HEAT officers. And the third grant was an Explosive Ordnance Unit grant from the Department of Homeland Security and Georgia Emergency Management Agency, or EMA, in the amount of $49,000 with no local match for the purchase of an explosive ordnance disposal vehicle and veterinary care and supplies for an explosive detective canine. Thank goodness we're protecting them. My favorite 3 words in all 3 of these grants are no local match. So with that, our grants were accepted. And I wanted to say that I always say that our meeting is for the public safety. And every day, as I say this, every time we meet, is every day is a public safety day. I just wish commissioners get out the word. People watching this meeting, please, please listen to what we're being told. Wear your mask, social distance, wash your hands, avoid large group gatherings, because those group gatherings are going to start pretty soon. Just go ahead and plan for what you're going to do now. Let's get these numbers down. Let's get them down so they look good and we can start freeing up some things and doing some things we want. With no further business, this concluded the report of the Public Safety Committee.
Good. Thank you, Chairman Wynn. And finally, the Facilities and Engineering Committee, I'll call on Chairman Jones to give us that report. Chairman Jones?
Thank you, Mayor. Facilities and Engineering also met on October the 13th and took the following action. We had one item. The committee approved the exercise of eminent domain to acquire in fee simple the property known as 381 Monroe Street, which was in terrible disrepair and falling down. So that was the one action we took. That completes the report.
Good. Thank you, Chairman Jones. Next, public comments about agenda items. And Michael, I understand you received an email about an item on our new business to be referred to committee. I'll ask you to read that email for us at this time.
Thank you, Mayor. So this was a comment that came from, and I apologize, ma'am, if I pronounce your name incorrectly, but Aline Lester Perry on Windmill Plantation Road. And Miss Lester Perry writes to Macon-Bibb Commission, per Janice Ross, on October 5, the Windmill Plantation Subdivision Streetlight petition was scheduled for review by Macon-Bibb Commission Facilities and Engineering Committee on October 13th and approval by the commission on October 20th. Therefore, on behalf of the residences in Windmill Plantation Subdivision, we're seeking your approval of our streetlight petition, which began with a neighborhood petition submitted on June 22nd of 2020. During this lengthy process, it was determined that installation and maintenance of streetlights must be paid by property owners of the subdivision due to underground wiring existence as referenced in Macon-Bibb County Government Streetlight Ordinance, Section 29-202C. However, it was explained that if Windmill's petition was approved by the commission, Macon-Bibb would pay for the monthly electrical cost. Consequently, during these unprecedented times, the property owners came together and collected required installation costs proposed by Georgia Power. Now, as dedicated citizens and taxpayer, we want to make our neighborhood safer. We're requesting your approval of the Windmill Plantation Subdivision Streetlight petition to move forward. Thanks for your untiring consideration of this matter in Windmill. Mr. Mayor, that concludes the public comments.
That's a nice comment.
Excellent. Thank you, Michael. I appreciate that. And as I say, we'll refer that later under new business. That takes us next to the consent agenda. There are 3 license applications. Each one is accompanied by all of the requisite information that is necessary. The sheriff's certification of satisfactory background check by the applicant, the certification by the business development services that the appropriate fees have been tendered for the types of alcohol to be sold, measurement certification from the county engineer's office to say that the location meets all of the required separation or distance separations from prohibited structures, planning and zoning, certificate of compliance at zoning, and also the ad that ran in the Macon Telegraph. Each of these applications was accompanied by that information. The first was a application by Xavier Entertainment LLC, doing business as Club Dream, located at 840 MLK Boulevard here in Macon. And as we explained at pre-commission, that is an existing location, and it is for alcohol, mixed drinks, and beer to be consumed on the premises at that location. The second is a new alcohol beverage license by My Margaritas Bar and Grill LLC to be located at 4328 Hartley Bridge Road. This is a restaurant that we're all familiar with, Margaritas Bar and Grill, but at a new location. And they are seeking to have liquor, mixed drinks, beer, and wine to be consumed on the premise at that location. Next is a new alcohol beverage license for Blazing Paddles Studio LLC, doing business as Startup Studios, located at 1055 Riverside Drive, Suite A. That is for beer and wine to be consumed on the premise at that location. The Committee of the Whole recommends approval of those 3 licenses. Is there further discussion? If not, all in favor of the issuance of those 3 licenses signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say no. The ayes have it. Those 3 licenses will be approved as requested. There was a 4th license request from Southern Star LLC, DBA Amstar 16. That was tabled for additional information, and we'll get to that next week, I assume. That takes us now to old business. And the first item of old business is an appointment to the Macon-Bibb County Urban Development Authority, which I'll ask the clerk to read by caption.
Resolution of the Macon-Bibb County Commission to appoint Ryan Griffin to serve as a member of the Macon-Bibb County Urban Development Authority and for other purposes.
The Economic and Community Development Committee recommends approval. Is there further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor of the resolution signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say no. The ayes have it. The resolution is adopted. Next is item B. It's an appointment to the Keep Macon-Bibb Beautiful Commission. I'll ask the clerk to read that by caption.
Resolution of the Macon-Bibb County Commission reappointing Charles J. to the Keep Macon-Bibb Beautiful Board and for other lawful purposes.
Economic and Community Development Committee recommends approval. Is there further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor of the resolution signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say no. The ayes have it. The resolution is adopted. Next is another appointment to the Keep Macon-Bibb Beautiful Board. I'll ask the clerk to read that by caption.
A resolution of the Macon-Bibb County Commission appointing Kathleen Fortney to the Keep Macon-Bibb Beautiful Board and for other lawful purposes.
Economic and Community Development Committee recommends approval. Is there further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor of the resolution signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say no. The ayes have it. The resolution is adopted. That takes us to item D, which is an appointment to the Arbor Conservation Board. And I'll ask the clerk to read that by caption.
A resolution of the Macon-Bibb County Commission appointing George Thomas Jr. to the Arbor Conservation Board and for other lawful purposes.
The Economic and Community Development Committee recommends approval. Is there further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor of the resolution signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed, say no. The ayes have it. The resolution is adopted. Next is a resolution to recognize the month of October as Breast Cancer Awareness Month, sponsored by Commissioners Lane Lucas and Commissioner Valerie Wynn. I'll ask the clerk to read that in its entirety, please.
Yes, sir. A resolution of the Macon-Bibb County Commission to recognize the month of October 2020 as Breast Cancer Awareness Month. Whereas breast cancer is the second most common form of cancer affecting women in the United States, and whereas approximately 1 out of every 8 women and 1 out of every 1,000 men will develop breast cancer at some point in their lives, and whereas when detected early, the 5-year survival rate for breast cancer patients is around 99%, and whereas because of the long-term treatment benefits of early detection, it is important for women to conduct regular self-examinations, obtain routine mammograms upon reaching age 40 or earlier, and to learn about and understand the genetic factors which may affect an individual's chance of developing breast cancer. And whereas during the month of October 2020, across the United States of America and throughout the Macon-Bibb County community, observances are held to increase public awareness of the importance of breast cancer detection and prevention. And whereas the Macon-Bibb County Commission finds that this resolution is necessary and proper to promote or protect the safety, health, peace, security, and general welfare of Macon-Bibb County and its inhabitants, now therefore be it resolved by the Macon-Bibb County Commission, and it is hereby so resolved by the authority of the same, that the Macon-Bibb County Commission recognizes the month of October 2020 as Breast Cancer Awareness Month and urges the citizens of Macon-Bibb County to adopt habits which support the prevention and early detection of breast cancer throughout the year.
Is there further discussion? The Economic and Community Development Committee recommends approval. All in favor of the resolution signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say no. The ayes have it. The resolution is adopted. Next is the acceptance of a grant from the Pedestrian on the Move program, and I'll ask the clerk to read that by caption.
A resolution of the Macon-Bibb County Commission authorizing the mayor to accept a grant from the Georgia Office of Highway Safety in the amount of $23,400 for the Pedestrian on the Move program and for other lawful purposes.
Economic and Community Development Committee recommends approval. Is there further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor of the resolution signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed, say no. The ayes have it. The resolution is adopted. Next is item G, which is a grant from the Office of Justice Programs for our adult drug court. And I'll ask the clerk to read that by caption.
A resolution of the Macon-Bibb County Commission authorizing the acceptance of a forensic science improvement project grant from the Office of Justice Programs FY20 Edward Byrne Memorial Justice Assistance Grant Program in the amount of $73,535 with no local match to be used by the Bibb County Sheriff's Office for forensic science training and equipment purchases and by the Bibb County Adult Drug Court for the counselor's services and for other lawful purposes.
The Economic and Community, I'm sorry, excuse me, that was the Public Safety, I'm sure. The Public Safety Committee recommends approval. Is there further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor of the resolution signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say no. The ayes have it. The resolution is adopted. Next is another grant acceptance. This from the HEAT program. I'll ask the clerk to read that by caption.
A resolution of the Macon-Bibb County Commission authorizing the acceptance of an FY 2020 HEAT grant from the Governor's Office of Highway Safety in the amount of $142,868 with no local match to be used by the Bibb County Sheriff's Office to provide for the operation and maintenance of 3 patrol vehicles and fund salaries for 3 full-time HEAT officers and for other lawful purposes.
The Public Safety Committee recommends approval. Is there further discussion?
No, sir, no, sir. Go ahead.
Okay.
I'm sorry.
If not, all in favor of the resolution signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say no. The ayes have it. The resolution is adopted. Next is another grant acceptance for explosive ordnance equipment and veterinary care. I'll ask the clerk to read that by caption.
A resolution of the Macon-Bibb County Commission authorizing the acceptance of an explosive ordnance unit grant from the U.S. Department of Homeland Security and Georgia Emergency Management Agency in the amount of $49,000 with no local match to be used by the Bibb County Sheriff's Office for the purchase of an explosive ordnance disposal vehicle and for veterinary care and supplies for the explosive ordnance detecting canine and for other lawful purposes.
The Public Safety Committee recommends approval. Is there further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor of the resolution signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say no. The ayes have it. The resolution is adopted. Next is a resolution to use eminent domain to acquire blighted structure on Monroe Street. I'll ask the clerk to read that by caption.
A resolution of the Macon-Bibb County Commission to approve the exercise of eminent domain to acquire in fee simple the property commonly known as 381 Monroe Street, located in Macon-Bibb County, Georgia, and for other purposes.
The Facilities and Engineering Committee recommends approval. Is there further discussion? Well, I have just one, and that's what a picture's worth 1,000 words. Good gracious. If no further discussion, all in favor of the resolution signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. The ayes have it. The resolution is adopted. Next is item K, which is a transfer of purchase orders from last fiscal year to this fiscal year, and I'll ask the clerk to read that by caption.
An ordinance of the Macon-Bibb County Commission to approve a supplemental appropriation for the transfer of $28,504,740 from general fund balance to multiple funds in the FY21 budget to account for outstanding purchase orders and for other lawful purposes.
The Operations and Finance Committee recommends approval. Is there further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor of the ordinance signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say no. The ayes have it. The ordinance is adopted. Next is an ordinance to adjust our FY 2020 budget and to make a supplemental appropriation. I'll ask the clerk to read that by caption.
An ordinance of the Macon-Bibb County Commission to amend the FY 2020 general fund budget to $169,693,599 in total revenues and $169,693,000 $599 in total expenditures, resulting in a supplemental appropriation of $697,000 and other year-end adjustments and for other lawful purposes.
Operations and Finance Committee recommends approval. Is there further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor of the ordinance signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say no. The ayes have it. The ordinance is adopted. Next is an ordinance to authorize a supplemental budget appropriation for the Transit Authority, and I'll ask the clerk to read that by caption.
An ordinance of the Macon-Bibb County Commission to authorize a supplemental budget appropriation from the FY 2020 fund balance to the Macon-Bibb County Welfare Macon Transit Authority line item in the amount of $807,403 in order to provide for 45 days of operating expenses in accordance with the bi-party agreement dated June 28, 2016, and for other lawful purposes.
The Operations and Finance Committee recommends approval. Is there further discussion?
Mr. Mayor, Mr. Mayor, did anyone ever find out whether we are ever reimbursed for this? Because we make an initial appropriation to the Transit Authority, but every year we're asked to provide the money so that they can maintain a 45 days. It will change to 30 days.
Correct.
Is that right?
Correct, for next year. That's correct.
But the amount keeps going up because it's been like 300,000 and then 400,000 one year, and then now it's 807,000.
And my information, Commissioner Lucas, is that they make a good faith estimate of what their expenses are going to be, just like we do. They make a good faith estimate of what their expenses are going to be and what their revenues from the fare box and advertising and this, that, or the other are going to be. And as well as rent at the terminal station. So the rent that they get, all that figures into it. But when they have vacancies of this, that, or the other at the end of the year, they may come up and need a supplemental appropriation to bring them into compliance with our operating agreement for the 45 days of reserve. And you are correct. You are correct that other than providing a service for our constituents and getting them to work and this, that, or the other, no, they don't return any money to us. It just rolls into the next budget year. That's my information. Michael, Duke, anybody want to chime in on that if I misstated anything?
The only other thing that I would add is this calculation, the 800,000 is based on a single day snapshot for, they just look at what is the assets that they have on June 30th of 2019 and how much money would it take to take that number up to a 45-day number. And so, with the normal allocation that we give them every year, it's not a matter of do you take this and then spend what you need to and give us the amount back, because it's just a one-day snapshot. If it was less than zero, if they were over a 45-day balance, we just wouldn't have to pay them anything.
I will say, as far as for further discussion, I am so proud of the Macon Transit Authority for applying for and receiving the grant to buy 2 electric buses and the charging station that they put in. We were down at the terminal station last week to view those 2 new buses, which they've nicknamed something like Lightning and Jolt or something like that.
Bolt and Sparky.
Bolt and Sparky.
You had those wrong.
I was Bolt and Sparky, but they're going to be a marvelous addition to the fleet of buses and a real service to our community. I look forward to seeing them on the street. Further discussion.
Mayor, I was going to say that I am just so pleased.
If you're not talking, mute yourself if you're not intending to talk.
I was just going to say that even though I don't like our having to do this, I know that we've got an agreement to do it. And I like the fact that they have taken such care in protecting the health of their riders by the sanitation methods that they have implemented down there. So, and there are a lot of people that have no other way to get to work or wherever they're going. So
All right.
I think that is just great. And I am impressed with the electric buses as well. And so
Good.
I compliment them on that.
Good. Is there further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor of the ordinance signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say no. The ayes have it. The ordinance is adopted. Next is an ordinance to reinstate the money into the budget for next year to eliminate the furlough days, and I'll ask the clerk to read that by caption.
An ordinance of the Macon-Bibb County Commission to authorize a supplemental budget appropriation from fund balance to various departments in the total amount of $3,591,446 in order to provide for the reinstatement of previously budgeted furlough days for Macon-Bibb County employees and for other lawful purposes.
Operations and Finance Committee recommends approval. Is there further discussion?
Yeah, I just wanted to just comment a bit on the state of, I guess, our economy right now. You know, when we first started with our budget, we thought that we were going to be in pretty much dire straits at this time due to the impacts of COVID and our sales tax. As we've learned more and we've gotten here, we found that we've been able, I guess our local economy is quite resilient and elastic. So, you know, I think we're reporting now that we're expecting to have 30+ million in fund balance and an additional 8 million that's coming from CARES Act or has come in addition to that. So, and we're anticipating a pretty solid year this year as well, not seeing any real loss. And with that being said, we do have the ability to do right by our employees and continue paying them what their initial salaries are going to be.
Yeah, Chairman Watkins, I'll chime in and just say, when we were called on to project a budget, the state was, suggesting a 20% reduction in sales tax revenues, and we didn't have any information to know any difference. So we tried to cobble together a budget that would allow for us to take that sort of reduction in sales tax revenues. But you're right, we have not seen that sort of decline yet. In fact, we've seen the revenues hold fairly constant, and a lot of credit may go to the fact that we're collecting online sales tax or sales taxes on online purchases now. And that was effective in March, I believe, or the 1st of April. Thank goodness, because it may have been our saving grace, but I don't think we're out of the woods yet. I'm glad to see that we're reinstating the money for the furloughs and not putting a hardship on our employees. But y'all are going to have to really keep watching this pretty close next year, early on, to be sure we don't slip. Further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor of the ordinance signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say no. The ayes have it. The ordinance is adopted. Next is an ordinance to transfer of funds to capital improvements for the purchase of security systems at the Macon-Bibb County Government Center. And I'll ask the clerk to read that by caption.
An ordinance of the Macon-Bibb County Commission to authorize a supplemental budget appropriation from fund balance to the Macon-Bibb County Facilities Management Department, transfers out capital improvement line item in the amount of $63,295 in order to provide for the purchase of security systems for the Macon-Bibb County Government Center and for other lawful purposes.
The Operations and Finance Committee recommends approval. Is there further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor of the ordinance signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, say no. The ayes have it. The ordinance is adopted. That takes us to item P now, which is a resolution to approve a professional services agreement for some software for the maintenance of real property pricing schedules at the tax assessor's office. I'll ask the clerk to read that by caption.
Resolution of the Macon-Bibb County Commission authorizing the mayor to execute a professional services agreement with GMAS Incorporated in the amount of $143,500 annually for 3 years for maintenance of real property pricing schedules to be paid from the tax assessor's budget contract labor, contractual services line item, and for other lawful purposes.
The Operations and Finance Committee recommends approval. Is there further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor of the resolution signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say no. The ayes have it. The resolution is adopted. Next is item Q, which is a memorandum of understanding with the Bibb County School District for provision of up to $765,000 in funds. I'll ask the clerk to read that by caption.
A resolution of the Macon-Bibb County Commission authorizing the mayor to execute a memorandum of understanding with the Bibb County School District for the provisions of up to $765,000 in funds for the purpose of supporting efforts to develop equitable remote learning capabilities to students and families in Macon-Bibb County that have been adversely affected by COVID-19, payable from the School Board Support CARES Act recipient grant fund and for other lawful purposes.
The Operations and Finance Committee recommends approval. Is there further discussion?
Yes, sir, Mayor.
Commissioner Jones?
Yes, sir. I certainly is well-intended legislation. My understanding is school's about to return, and the school has received CARES Act dollars and SPLOST dollars. And they've also received dollars for one-to-one devices and hotspots, which is what I think this legislation is intended to do. We know now, unfortunately, we're not going to receive any additional dollars per the memo from the government. So, you know, my concern is the pay scale, what we're allotted for the pay scale, that's going to suffer if we commit to do this. So I'm not in favor of it simply because I think the schools are already covered and they're about to return.
Thank you, Commissioner Jones. Is there further discussion?
So
here, Commissioner Watkins?
Yeah, just in response, I don't think anyone's that certain about the return and that being on a complete basis. And there are a lot of gaps that these kids are dealing with that the school is desperately trying to cover. It's not the best situation, but from what I can tell, and I think the school boards, they don't have all the dollars to do this, and it's impacting kids that have the least amount of dollars to talk about. Like our poorest families in the poorest districts are the ones that are suffering right now the most. And we do have an opportunity. Yes, it costs money, but I think it's more than worth it in terms of getting our kids and our families some form of education. Like it's just not a school problem. We're talking about a year of kids that are going to be infinitely behind, and folks are trying to come up with ways to catch them up. Right? And really money is what solves the problem. Money is the medicine for this situation. Giving these kids, these families that have been identified, the ability to get a Wi-Fi hotspot so they can log on in a way is important. So, yeah.
Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Commissioner Watkins. Commissioner Wynn, got you next.
Yes, sir. In response to that comment and to Commissioner Jones identified the fact that there were some monies that were given to the Bibb County Board of Education for the purpose of many of the things that are mentioned in this resolution. I'm all in favor of educating our young people, especially reaching those that are having difficulty. I'm all in favor of that. It's just if they've already gotten the money somehow, and you say, and Commissioner Watkins says they don't have the money, that the Board of Education doesn't have the money, then Commissioner Jones is saying that they did get some money. I'm not saying
that the Board of Education did not receive
Commissioner Watkins, I'm sorry.
Yeah, let's don't have back and forth. Address your comments to the chair, and Commissioner Wynn has the floor.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'm concerned about that amount of money being spent when we know that we are going to face some large sums that we're having to expend for our salary adjustments. So I'm just a little bit afraid that we don't need to spend that since we know we're not getting it back. Although I know that the reasons are good. If they're already getting some money and they have the money, and if kids do go back to school, that money won't be needed quite as badly.
Thank you, Commissioner. Thank you, Commissioner Wynn. For further discussion, Commissioner Lucas, I see your hand up.
Thank you. Is this money intended to come, which pot of money would this come from, Commissioner Watkins?
At this point, it
Mr.
would
Chair,
be,
I'm sorry, Mr. Mayor, I address you or
No, that's fine. Commissioner Watkins, go ahead and answer that question, please.
at this point, unless something changes with the state, it would be fund balance. I don't have any indication.
Okay,
it would be anything
and that's with the 8 million, comes from the 8 million that we received.
Correct. Really? We received the reimbursement for 8 million already for the police salaries that are going into that fund balance. That's already quite healthy, in excess of 30 million.
Yeah. Okay. My other question deals with Community Development Department that received 1.5 million in CARES funding. This was way before this funding. Does anybody remember that?
Yes.
And there was supposed to be a plan for its use. And I'm wondering if your goal could not be achieved by having access to some of that funding.
Right.
I'm definitely not opposed to it. If I'm remembering correctly, a lot of that Ms. Jackson from ECD was depending on for the eviction supports, because at some point, I think the judge just got off our screen that we are going to have to expend funds to assist people from getting into foreclosures, and eviction support was one of her initial recommendations. And while it was because I asked her about it, while it's a large pot of money now in excess of $1 million, they're not certain when the evictions will happen in mass, because I think the courts have been closed for so long. So
okay,
I think it's
well, I support what you're proposing to do with this. I just had those few questions, and I'm going to vote for it. But I think we ought to explore too whether there can be some interface between community development and this money, because any other place that we can get the money, it helps our bottom line. And I agree with salary adjustments and other things that we have to do. We're going to need all that we can use. But I think there may be a way of using some of that community development to achieve what you're doing, especially for maybe those who are homeless, have homeless families included. So I'm going to vote with you.
If I may, I'm not sure if anyone else has anything, but
I do. Mr. Mayor.
Commissioner Allen, go ahead, got you next.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Mr. Mayor, last meeting we discussed, schools. Now, I'm all for Bibb County Public Schools, but we also talked about, there are a lot of families out there that don't have a lot of money, but they got the kids in private schools. We talked about trying to help those private schools also. I mean, a lot of those people got COVID also. And now we're talking about taking all this money and give it to the school system. And, if we're going to do this and leave the private schools out, which the money was supposed to have been for private schools, from what I understand nationwide, as well as public schools, I'd rather put the money back into fund balance and take care of our commitment to our employees, to law enforcement. I mean, I just
thank you, Commissioner Allen.
Can't see doing the other, anything by not taking care of our children, all our children. Don't take just a few of them. You do them, you either take care of all of them or let somebody, we'll do it, figure another way with the school system.
Thank you, Commissioner Allen. Any further comments?
Yes, if I may.
Discussion? Yes, sir. Commissioner Watkins, one more time.
So I think today we're talking about the school system and whether or not we can afford to provide additional support for our kids to learn. I think most of you, when we discussed that, it's just not schools and distance learning. Our community is dealing with all types of issues. This is not a normal time for our citizens. This is a pandemic. Stuff is wild. And the folks that are hurting the hardest are the ones with the least amount of money or the least amount of disposable income. And that's usually when government steps in and provides support. Outside of whether or not the federal government or state government is going to provide aid to Macon, Georgia, we as Macon-Bibb County are going to have to sit down and decide what are we going to do for our citizens over and beyond, because this is a pandemic. I think earlier we had talked about trying to say rescue some of our businesses and all these types of things, but I wanted to hold off on all of those because I thought those could be way more confusing than the idea of whether or not we're going to support our most vulnerable youth. So I really encourage everyone to pass this. It's needed not only, and I think we also owe it to ourselves to have a serious conversation about in totality what type of support we plan on providing our citizens as well as our employees. We are at a point when it comes to fund balance, we are truly blessed in the midst of this pandemic to have an excess of fund balance. This is the time that exactly you build your rainy day and your reserve funds for pandemics and emergencies. And again, our local budget is quite elastic. Once this is over, we will be able to rebuild our storage. But right now, I guess I'm asking that we support our citizens, not just in this way, but in the totality of ways we know to be right. Food, they told us, the federal government told us the things that we were supposed to be done for our citizens, and we've been waiting on a handout when we've got money in the bank to do these things with ourselves. That's my point now.
Thank you, Commissioner Jones. Commissioner Watkins. I understand Commissioner Jones got one more comment. Commissioner Jones.
I'm about to shoot up a flare. You can't see me. I'm all for doing everything possible for every citizen and especially our children. But if the money is not needed, and I've been assured the Board of Education does not need the money. Has anybody asked the Board of Education? Are you lacking for
yes. We've had conversations
well, again, wait a minute, Commissioner Watkins, hold on. Commissioner Jones got the floor, and then I'll come back to you.
No, they've got about $10 million. So they're well loaded right now, and they do not need these funds. So if they don't need these funds, let's use these funds in other places, because this would be coming right out of the general fund. And if it's not needed, let's don't throw money at something that's not where it's not needed. I'm sure that they've got more than enough money to take care of this problem. And if they do, and that's coming from them, then we don't need to put money there. So I'm all for the intent, all for doing everything for every citizen we can possibly do, and especially our children. But if it's not needed, let's don't spend the money.
Commissioner Watkins, yeah, right. I think you had a reply.
Yes, and I guess I'm going to need a point of clarity because I have several emails from the superintendent, as well as, I'm not sure if it's the vice president or the associate dean of their system, as well as their attorneys, where they've kind of made outline what they didn't have and what they would do if they had money. And these are the things that they've come up with. So I'm curious from him, what is his source when we say that the school system has stated that they are not in need of these things, because there are a litany of items that they have not provided. And my understanding is due to resources economically, they have not provided their students and are somewhat waiting on us if they will provide these items to their students. Like, they have bought hotspots, but it was not enough for the entire student body. There is a gap, and they're trying to fill, like, they're asking us for extra $1,000 because, again, they have done things, but they are recognizing gaps, and they have waiting lists, is what my email written correspondence from the school system says. So I'm curious as to what my member is discussing. So I'll yield for an answer.
Mr. Mayor.
Commissioner Bivens, let's go to you next, sir.
Yeah, I'm going to support this, but again, it just seems like we're in 1955.
Oh yeah.
Thank you, Commissioner Bivens. Is there further discussion?
Mr. Mayor, my last comment would be, I'd be curious as to the timing of the emails, but I don't think the dollar need is there. I think they have more than enough funds to do what they need to do. And if in fact that's true, and I have no reason to doubt that, then we need to think about other things like pay scale raises and other places where we can always use the money. We've built the surplus back up, but as we know, it can really go down in a hurry. So we need to be prudent with our spending.
All right. Thank you, Commissioner Jones. Is there further
Mayor,
discussion?
Mr. Mayor,
Commissioner Wynn, Commissioner Wynn.
thank you one more time. There's been, to me, right now, there's been discussion back and forth about the funding, if the Bibb County Board of Education has the funds or not. I'm in favor of what the intention of this is, but I would like clarification before we actually vote on it. It's not urgent we vote on it tonight, but I'd like clarification. If there is funding from the Bibb County Board of Education, then we don't need to use these funds for that particular need. There are a lot of other needs out there, and there will be other needs coming forward. And we got to watch this budget. Just because we have money in our general fund, don't start spending it. That's when you get into trouble. We've got to watch what we spend. And I know that some will be gone when we go into the New Year's budget, and I just don't want there to be a lack of funding. I just would like some clarification. Who's right? We've got two different opinions here. I don't know when the emails were sent to Commissioner Watkins, and I don't know exactly. Commissioner Jones says that he's been in touch with someone at the Board of Education. I really like a clarification before we vote on this. And then if we find out that there is a need, I'm all for it, even though it takes money from the general fund. I yield.
Thank you, Commissioner Wynn. And I don't. Commissioner Lucas, let me go to you,
Yes.
and then there is a message.
Thank
There
you,
is
Mr. Mayor. And
there is
all I
there
have
is a
to-
message in your chat box too. I'll just point that out.
Okay, while we're sitting here trying to make Macon great again, we've got families and children that need the support. And so we didn't have a problem with $5 million for chairs and carpet at the Grand Opera House. So we shouldn't have a problem with this money for families that we're saying we want to make it great by educating our children, and especially during this time. So let's make everything great again. Let's make education great again. Let's get busy and go ahead and approve this. And we can't call for the question, can we?
Yes, I don't know why you couldn't.
Well, I don't want to cut off anybody's discussion, but we need to go ahead and vote on this to make Macon great again.
Right. Oh, okay. Well, so that was not a motion. That was just a statement, as I understood it. So, is there further discussion?
One last comment.
Mr. Jones?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
And you got to distinguish between general fund and SPOS dollars, and that's what the Grand Opera was, SPOS dollars. So
money.
If the clarification is made, then I would certainly vote yes. But I would like to hear that from whoever we'd like to bring in Superintendent Curtis Jones or whoever you'd like to bring. Do you need this money? Do you have the money to do what you need to do with the school system? If they say no, we're desperate for money, then I would vote for it. So that would make it plain and simple for me.
Me too. That's what
Right. Well, I didn't hear a motion, so
make a motion to table this, Mr. Mayor, until next week.
I'll second it.
I make a motion to table this until next week.
Okay, you got a motion by Allen and a second by Wynn to table. That's a non-debatable motion. So I think you can understand why I want the clerk to do a roll call, because it sounds like we got some for it and some against it. So this is on the motion to table this for further information. If you want to table it, you would vote yes to table. If you do not want to table it, you would vote no. So clerk, would you please call the roll for me, please, ma'am?
I will. Mayor Pro Tem Tillman, how do you vote?
No.
Commissioner Allen, how do you vote?
Yes.
Commissioner Bivens, how do you vote?
No.
Commissioner Jones, how do you vote?
Yes.
Commissioner Lucas, how do you vote?
No.
Commissioner Schlesinger, how do you vote?
No.
Commissioner Shepard, how do you vote?
Yes.
Commissioner Watkins, how do you vote?
No.
Commissioner Wynn, how do you vote?
Yes.
It's 5-4, Mr. Mayor.
But you had 4 yeses and 5 noes. So
Yes,
you
sir.
gotta have 5 to pass. So the motion to table fails. So that brings us back to further discussion. Is there further discussion?
Well,
If not,
yes, sir, Mr. Mayor, one more comment. You need to make sure when you vote for this that you're looking forward to the money we need for other things in our future for the city, for all the citizens of our city,
Right.
not just a particular, Mr. Mayor, let me finish, not just a particular group. And don't mix up SPOS money with general fund money. I agree with that.
Right. Okay. So the Operations and Finance Committee recommends approval. Those in favor of the resolution.
Commissioner Jones is raising
Jones
his hand.
again.
Again?
Yes.
Again, yeah.
Okay. Commissioner Jones.
One last thing, I don't understand why folks would not allow someone to come in of authority and tell us straight up, we need it or we don't need it. If they don't need it, then we certainly want it. We don't have any shortage of places to spend money. We don't have any shortage of causes or good places to spend money. That's not the problem. We just need to make sure we spend it effectively and efficiently and in the right places where it's absolutely needed. So
all right.
I don't understand the reservation by anyone not willing to hear from someone in person from the Board of Education, someone in authority who would know.
That amendment just failed.
The Operations and Finance Committee recommends approval. Is there further discussion? If not, I'm going to ask the clerk to do
Has
a
there
roll.
been a motion on this? On to pass it?
So moved.
Well, it came out of Operations and Finance with a recommendation to pass it. The motion to table failed, so I'm back to the main motion.
That's what I was wondering. If was there a main?
Yeah, a motion out of Operations and Finance. It was passed by Operations and Finance. Operations and Finance recommends approval. So I'm gonna ask the clerk to call the roll again.
Yes, sir.
If you're for the resolution, you'd vote yes. If you're opposed to the resolution, you'd vote no.
Mayor Pro Tem Tillman, how do you vote?
Yes.
Commissioner Allen, how do you vote?
No.
Commissioner Bivens, how do you vote?
Yes.
Commissioner Jones, how do you vote?
No.
Commissioner Lucas, how do you vote?
Yes.
Commissioner Schlesinger, how do you vote?
Yes.
Commissioner Shepard, how do you vote? Commissioner Shepard, you're muted.
He can put an.
How do you vote? No. Commissioner Watkins, how do you vote?
Yes.
Commissioner Wynn, how do you vote?
No.
There are 5 yeses and 4 noes. The resolution is adopted.
Great.
That takes us to item R on the agenda, which is a professional services agreement with Geotech for $8,600 for some additional testing at Freedom Park. And I'll ask the clerk to read that by caption.
A resolution of the Macon-Bibb County Commission authorizing the mayor to execute a professional services agreement with Geotechnical Environmental Consultants Incorporated in the amount of $8,675 for testing of construction materials and special inspections needed for phase 3 of the Freedom Park project to be paid from 2018 SPOS funds, recreation, Freedom Park, property line item, and other lawful purposes.
The Operations and Finance Committee recommends approval. Is there further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor of the resolution signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say no. The ayes have it. The resolution is adopted. That takes us to item S, which is an amendment to the timeline for the 2018 SPLOST project. I'll ask the clerk to read that by caption.
A resolution of the Macon-Bibb County Commission to approve Amendment 27A to the 2018 SPLOST project timeline and budget as presented by the SPLOST project manager and for other lawful purposes.
The Operations and Finance Committee recommends approval. Is there further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor of the resolution signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say no. The ayes have it. The resolution is adopted. Takes you to item T, which is a resolution to allow the mayor to execute a commercial lease agreement for space to be occupied by the Georgia Cooperative Extension Service. I'll ask the clerk to read that by caption.
A resolution of the Macon-Bibb County Commission authorizing the mayor to execute a commercial lease contract with BSTP LLC in the amount of $45,000 for office space located at 127, 129, and the upper level of 145 First Street to be occupied by Georgia Cooperative Extension Services from October the 1st, 2020 until September the 30th, 2021, and for other lawful purposes.
Operations and Finance Committee recommends approval. Is there further discussion?
Mr. Mayor,
Commissioner Lucas.
you know how long you think we're gonna be having to pay additional rent for the cooperative extension and when they may be moving? They're supposed to go to train, aren't they?
Yes, ma'am. That's
what's
the
timetable?
designated user. But we've got an agreement to do phase one, and we've appropriated the money for phase one, which is basically just the envelope of the outside, the exterior, and doesn't have any money in it to finish the interior. So we've still got to appropriate some money from that before we can move them.
Yeah, I just wondered on the timeline.
Right. Is there further discussion?
There's some more money there. Well, hey, you got to look out for what's coming down the pipe.
Well, all right. Is there further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor of the resolution signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say no. The ayes have it. The resolution is adopted. Next is an ordinance to appropriate some additional money from fund balance for furniture in the municipal court. I'll ask the clerk to read that by caption.
An ordinance of the Macon-Bibb County Commission to authorize a supplemental budget appropriation from fund balance to the Macon-Bibb County Municipal Court in the amount of $5,500 in order to provide for the purchase of office furniture and for other lawful purposes.
Operations and Finance recommends approval. Is there further discussion?
Mr. Mayor, I think this is great that those folks are going to get some new items in that office, because from what I understand, all of the, and I know we have approved a lot of different new items for many of the courtrooms and the court spaces on the different floors at the courthouse. A municipal court having just moved over there, I think they had stuff that wasn't locked in and all that. So we should all express appreciation to the county manager for looking into it and determining that there was a need for drawers that locked and other kinds of things. So I certainly support this.
Good. Is there further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor of the ordinance signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed, say no. The ayes have it. The ordinance is adopted. That brings us to item V, which is an ordinance to authorize a supplemental budget appropriation from fund balance for the tax commissioner's office for some additional software. And I'll ask the clerk to read that by caption.
An ordinance of the Macon-Bibb County Commission to authorize a supplemental budget appropriation from fund balance to the Macon-Bibb County Tax Commissioner in the amount of $35,000 in order to provide for the purchase of licensing management software and to fund certain travel expenses and for other lawful purposes.
Operations and Finance Committee recommends approval. Is there further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor of the ordinance signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say no. The ayes have it. The ordinance is adopted. That takes you to item W, which is an ordinance to authorize a budget transfer of $7,000 from the tax assessor's line items between line items in their office. I'll ask the clerk to read that by caption.
An ordinance of the Macon-Bibb County Commission to authorize a budget transfer of $7,000 from the tax assessor salaries and wages full-time line item to the tax assessor Contractual services line item in order to provide for a contractor to perform mapping services related to the preparation of the FY 2021 tax digest and for other lawful purposes.
Operations and Finance Committee recommends approval. Is there further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor of the ordinance signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed, say no. The ayes have it, and the ordinance as amended is adopted. That takes you to item Y, which is a resolution to authorize the mayor to reinstate some vacant positions and org chart changes. And no, I'm sorry. Wait a minute. I'm mixed up here.
It's
I'm sorry.
X, Mr. Mayor.
Hmm?
It's item X.
Yeah, I jumped over X. Please excuse me. I made my check mark in the wrong place and moved on before I should have. So that brings us to item X, which is an ordinance to provide for budget supplementals in the total amount of $519,742.94 from fund balance to restore vacancies and create some additional. This was amended in the Operations and Finance Committee to eliminate some of the vacancies to be reinstated, but the Operations and Finance Committee recommends approval as amended. Is there further discussion?
Is this, we're looking at the wrong slide, aren't we? Or the wrong amendment here? I mean,
No, yeah, you need to back up to X, Rachel.
No, sir. The one on the screen has the wrong dollar amount.
yeah, I was going to say something's not right here.
Yes,
You
it
said
changed.
500 something.
No, it's okay. You didn't know. The dollar amount is $519,742.94.
What? Now, Rachel, put yours back up on the screen if you don't mind, please. Because what you may have had was the original before the amendment came. Yeah, see, there's your original amount. But the 519 is what was approved by Operations and Finance. They took out several positions. So what Operations and Finance is recommending is $519,742.94.
And I'll explain that a little bit, since I know it's a little confusion on what happened. So I think the original proposal was for $700,000 for a partial year, full year salaries 1.1. There were about 12. So in the first part of the budget year, as we mentioned earlier, we did a lot of things anticipating the worst. One of which was we defunded a lot of the vacant positions. And we left them in the org chart, understanding that they were important to the operations, but based on what we were going through, they were currently vacant, and we froze them and didn't place a salary there. Again, based on the positive outlook we have on our finances right now, the administration wanted to reinstate the funding for those vacant positions. They included a position in the county attorney's office, 2 positions in human resources, 2 positions in the tax commissioner's office, 5 in facilities management, 1 in superior court, 1 in engineering, and 2 in recreation. Those were recommended by the administration and approved by the committee. What's in dispute, which causes the discrepancy in the dollar amounts, and I believe we're going to talk about a little bit more, were the inclusion of 4 new positions that to date don't exist on the org chart. So it's the placing these on the org charts, and then funding of these positions. And also the goal with all of these positions is to hire them as soon as we can. This included a director of procurement, which also meant making a new procurement department, a assistant clerk of commission, a community risk director, which I guess also includes making a new community risk department, and a director of community affairs, which may or may not be a department. For these four recommendations, the committee ended up or we recommended that we don't pass these at this time. One, for more clarity and continuity. I do know and have been in conversation about the director of procurement and got more. I'm not, but anyway, I'll yield from there. I'm not sure, but anyway, the committee is recommending just the reinstatement of existing positions in the org chart and more conversation on the remaining 4 completely new positions. Yes.
Commissioner Jones, got you next.
Yes, so this is where my amendment would come in, and we talk about the 4 positions. First of all, the procurement director is not a new position. We've been without a procurement officer or director for some time. That really hasn't been working out so well, and no offense to our good friends in the legal community, but you know, we're paying $300 an hour for their services, and I'm sure they're worth every dollar. But you know, we need a procurement director, and we need a procurement department, as we've had for many, many years in both city and county government. The assistant clerk is not a new position either. The 2 new positions would be the community risk reduction director. My understanding, that's just one person. That would be a liaison, a manager that has to do with code enforcement, that has to do taking up what a person from the fire department currently does as far as inspecting buildings, but inspecting even more of that, of those types of things, and a cooperating or liaison person with the Safe Built company as well. The 4th one is the executive director of community and governmental affairs, which would be for the new administration. One thing to note is none of these positions start until January of 2021. And some of them are to restore vacancies, and 2 of them are new. But for us to be more effective, more efficient, more accountable and efficient to the taxpayers, I think we need all 4. So I'd like to make the motion to which really just restores what the original resolution was. And I thought it was well thought out and well planned and well needed, all of the positions. So that's my motion to amend it. That would take us really back to way the original resolution or ordinance was, I guess it was.
Got a motion by Jones, second by Allen, to amend the committee amendment to basically reinstate the 4 positions that were eliminated. Is there further discussion about the amendment now? This is on the amendment. Commissioner Wynn?
Yes, sir. Thank you, sir. Yeah, the 4 positions we're looking at that have to do with this amendment are the ones that we've been short in the clerk of commission, the clerk's office, because they used to have 5 people or maybe even more than that. They're working with 3 now. Can you imagine what more they could do for us if we had 5, at least a 4th person, a new person there? That position's been there before. We just need to add it back in. Secondly, this procurement, we need this. This is going to help us with doing that job better. And that also will work with Safe Built, and they'll also work with taking it away from a fireman's position. And so that there's one person, it's not a department. And I think we need that to help make them move forward. The risk reduction, well, let me see. Let me go back to I like to call it it used to be what we were referred to as an executive assistant, kind of like that. But that new position that's being discussed and added is a community liaison, if you will. And the mayor's office needs that. That person can take over whatever items that the mayor cannot deal with and will assist the mayor, and will be a good contact for our citizens to have. But we need that position in there. These 4 positions really are needed. We could use those, and I support adding this back in. This is just less than $200,000. You just spent $700,000 on something, by the way, we didn't need, because I'm told that the Board of Education has the funding for that. They have plenty of funding for what they needed. So I just think that we ought to support adding these back in.
Okay, thank you, Commissioner. Is there further discussion on the amendment now? Commissioner Watkins?
If I may, so most of our county department, I don't disagree at all that most of our county departments are underfunded. I mean,
Yeah.
understaffed, and we could use more support. I take note of the way our community looks. I know for a fact, like, and I see that the public works and solid waste and arts beautification departments are trying to cut the grass and maintain a better right of way, but they are understaffed and under-tooled. I get that. And we're trying to support you. But to me, it seems like a slightly bad look that of all of the sources of understaffing, that we're going to provide extra resources to the very top of our organization, an executive director, another leader in the mayor's office, and another leader in the county clerk's office. But all of the brick and mortar, boots on the ground, sheriffs, we're still maintaining. I don't like that outlook on it. One, moving code enforcement is a conversation that I really think we need to have, again, in slowness, because we've moved it, or this administration now has moved it more than 4 times in like 6 years. And each time it's cycled down. I think if you were proposing for it to finally return back to economic development, that's when you could actually get code enforcement data of anything, when it was actually ran by a department, I might not have an argument. But to move it back to create a new community risk director will have no support budget. Like, we're not proposing that they have a support budget with office supplies or even where their office is, that they are immediately supposed to start doing code enforcement work. Like what happened? Like, that doesn't seem right to me, when again, there are places that know how to do this within our organization. Like, if we're gonna move it to the fire administration, which again, putting out fires and maintaining the class 1 rating is enough for the fire department, and that's what we want them to excel at. To ask them to do a totally new thing, starting like now, with no training, no support budget, no office supplies, is a fool's errand.
Yeah.
And we're in the middle of a transition. Like, we only have 4 months to even make this transition work. Excuse me, even less than that, before a new administration comes in. And again, there are not too many communities in the state that their code enforcement happens in fire administration. So while his transition team is reviewing, is this the best thing for us to do right now, and to commit money and start hiring a person right now for, I guess, is my question. Procurement, I actually don't even have an argument on that one. Like, if we were just talking about procurement, I would be more than, I think we've made a lot of mistakes and we've spent a lot of money, but I understand what y'all are trying to do. I've got RFPs that are tied up and it takes forever to get out because it seems to be understaffed. No real argument there, but these other 3, I mean, what? But I yield. So anyway, I say all that, say I'm gonna vote no. But
thank you, Commissioner Watkins. Is there further discussion on the amendment? Commissioner Jones?
Well, can I defer to Michael McNeil and then go?
I just wanted to show that I have it in writing at the request of Commissioner Jones, that I prepared it.
Okay, then I'll go ahead and I'm glad others see the light on the procurement director, because we're not efficient in that, simply because we don't have a procurement officer or director, and we need that. The assistant clerk of commission, I would hope no one would have any reservation about that either, and that would behoove us all, including most importantly, the citizen taxpayers. The community risk reduction director, that is not necessarily coming, I mean, that would open up and it could be somebody from the fire department, but it may not be somebody from the fire department at all.
Have you read anything on this, or like, where are you pulling that from? Because I don't have any data on a risk director.
Well, I've gotten information from our county manager.
And you're the chair.
Maybe you can enlighten, maybe he can enlighten us after we speak. And then the other one is a position for the new mayor, his new executive assistant, as Mayor Rickard has told us, he has done without an executive assistant because Sam Henderson was moved to small business affairs. And so he's kind of limped along without that. But I think that's a necessary part of the new administration. And for those who think it's too soon. This, it doesn't begin until January of 21. So I make the case that all four are needed and necessary, and we can all respectfully disagree on where money should go. And I do that on other items like the money. I think we're going to be overfunding for the school, which is not needed. But here again, it's a disagreement on the funds. But I think all four of these are necessary moves. I think the $700,000 ordinance was well thought out, and all those other positions. It's not just these four, as you alluded to, Commissioner Watkins. It's also other lots of other needed people in facilities and in other departments that have been needed and granted. And certainly I agree, we need people in all departments, and I think we should look for ways to add the necessary people where we can, and we've got to do that by being efficient and not wasteful on dollars. Thank you,
All
Mayor.
right. Is there further discussion on the amendment? Now, this is on the amendment.
Yeah, I have a motion at the appropriate time.
Yeah, I wanted, Mr. Mayor.
Commissioner Lucas.
Well, I heard Commissioner Watkins first, but
Remove the document, please.
Excuse me?
Remove the document.
Share screen.
Yeah, to take the screen share down. Okay, so Commissioner Lucas, let me recognize you, then go to Watkins.
Thank you very, very much. And I totally agree with the chair of Operations Committee. The one thing that I can support on this, and we have had some discussion on, is that procurement position. And I do feel like that is one that I could support. So if the sponsor of this amendment would remove all the others and simply have the one procurement position, I could support the amendment to add the procurement only to it. And I don't know whether he's willing to do that or not, but that's the only way that I can support it. Otherwise, I'll be voting no on your amendment.
Thank you. Let's go to Chairman Watkins. Chairman Watkins, I think you had, and then Commissioner Jones.
Are you?
Okay, back to Commissioner Jones.
If the consensus is against all four, then I would offer another amendment after that vote. Can we do that?
If you've got you got a subsequent amendment, right, you could do that. So if there's no further discussion on the initial Jones amendment, which is to reinstate all four, then I'm gonna ask the clerk to call the roll again. If you're for the Jones amendment to reinstate all four of these positions into this, you would vote yes to that amendment.
Mr. Mayor, may I stop for just a minute? I know Dr. Moffitt is on Zoom with us, and for a better understanding for me of some of these positions, he was able to help me greatly with this, particularly the one that used to be called executive director, but it's going to be community manager of community affairs or something to that effect. I'd like to hear him tell us what he told me, because it convinced me that we needed all four of these positions. I can't even begin to think why we wouldn't need the clerk's position, but I'd like to have him address that if it's possible.
I don't know why it wouldn't be possible if Dr. Moffitt's on the line then as your county manager. Certainly I would allow that. Dr. Moffitt?
Yes, sir, I'm here.
Can you answer Commissioner Wynn's request?
Yes, sir.
About these four positions?
Yes, sir. In no particular order. I think that if y'all have discussed the procurement and feel the need for that, we are currently have a hybrid with finance and the legal department, which is very challenging. And so they've done the research, and at the recommendation of both the finance director and the legal team, they recommend that we hire a procurement officer to lead that, with the procurement officer, the procurement manager, and the two buyers to get that department back fully functional. The executive assistant position is the one that was previously there in the mayor's office. And 2 budgets ago, we unfunded that position. And the new mayor-elect has said that there's a position that he will lean on to help him with his community engagement efforts. And so we're requesting to replace that. That position will probably start, will start in January. The next one is the clerk's office. Again, y'all have already had discussion on that to fulfill those needs. And the last one is the risk reduction officer, because we have 3 facets in that position with the safe built contract, which does commercial inspections, code enforcement, which does residential and property maintenance, and then in connection with that, the fire prevention inspections. I think it's a great fit there. I did the research in other communities. It's with law enforcement, because in some communities it's with the sheriff's office or the police department, because those officers are able to write more than just property abatement tickets. But in our case, we just have them where they do property maintenance, property abatement in our efforts of working in reducing blight in the community. And so this person will oversee all 3 of those functions, coordinate the inspections, coordinate the process of getting citations all the way to environmental court, which is municipal court. And so working with Chief Riggins, we developed the job description for this position, again, to oversee the safe built contract, to oversee code enforcement, to be property abatement and blight, and the fire prevention efforts.
Thank you, Dr. Moffitt. You said it much better than I ever could. That's why I wanted you to say it, because you made me understand. Thank you. I don't see why we can.
Is there further discussion on the Jones Amendment?
So
the Jones Amendment would reinstate these 4 positions. Further discussion.
So risk management or risk reduction. Now, again, that one, I'm almost certain if we take us a few hours, and respect to Dr. Moffitt, he's come up with like 5 or 6 ways for us to locate code enforcement on our organizational chart, or the mayor. It's just happened a lot. I'm not sure. Yeah, you hadn't, but again, before we just ship it over to the fire department, and not only that, I'm understanding that you're trying to the management or the oversight of the safe built, our building inspection department will also be ran out of there. All right, we need to talk about that a little bit more. Again, that is not the most, I'm not even gonna say it's the most efficient way. It just stands out to me that we maybe could do this a better way.
Yeah.
And
okay.
I did ask if the maker of the motion, the author of the amendment, would remove all except the procurement, which is the only one in that group that I can support. Does the sponsor wish to do that?
Thanks, but no thanks.
All right, well, I'm voting no.
Very good. All right, so now we're ready for the vote. I think this is on the Jones Amendment that would reinstate all 4 of these positions. If you're in favor of the Jones Amendment, you'd vote yes. If you're opposed to the Jones Amendment, you'd vote no. I'm going to ask the clerk to call the roll. Uh-oh, you're muted, I think.
Commissioner Allen, how do you vote?
Yes.
Commissioner Bibbins, how do you vote? Commissioners, would y'all please unmute? Commissioner Bibbins, will you please unmute? Thank you.
No.
Commissioner Jones, how do you vote?
Yes.
Commissioner Lucas, how do you vote?
No.
Commissioner Schlesinger, how do you vote?
No.
Commissioner Shepard, how do you vote?
Yes.
Commissioner Watkins, how do you vote?
No.
Commissioner Wynn, how do you vote?
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Tillman, how do you vote?
No.
All right, you had four yeses and 5 noes, so the Jones Amendment fails. Is there further discussion of the Operations and Finance Committee recommends approval of the ordinance as amended to eliminate these 4 positions? Is there further discussion on that main motion now? If not, if you're in favor of the Operations and Finance ordinance as amended to take these 4 positions out, you'd vote yes. Opposed, vote no. Commissioner Jones, I see you waving your hand now.
Yes, sir. I'd like to make a motion to amend the amendment to include procurement and the assistant clerk position. I don't understand why anybody would be against those 2.
Only procurement.
Procurement and assistant clerks.
Only procurement.
No, let's don't have back and forth, please, between two
Well, I'm
commissioners.
just
Now, let me
telling
call,
him.
all right, let me
Motion
call.
to amend the amendment.
No, hold on. Let me call on the
Clear
attorney
this thing out.
because I think he wrote this resolution up so that we could, like a menu selection, you could add or delete. So you can just basically do this, without a separate thing in writing. Michael?
Well, I can address that? Yeah. So So I'm reading the tea leaves here, and I think that can somebody turn off? Michael,
sorry.
That's all right. Thank you. I think that what I'm seeing that may be a proper way to do this, because if we have we can do it one of two ways. We can either do an amendment for whatever other positions less than the 4, that would be in order. Or we can do this called seriatim, which is you take them one at a time and just vote on them one at a time to amend the main motion. So that would be my suggestion. Take these, what I'm hearing is procurement and clerk. Is that correct, Commissioner Jones?
Yes, sir.
My recommendation would be to take them one at a time and vote on them separately. But that's within the will of the commission, what you want to do.
So talk to me a little bit about the clerk of commission, if you don't mind, what are your plans there? Because I could use a research assistant.
Yes, sir. I'd be happy to. As you know, when we consolidated, there were 8 people in the clerk's office. After the offer to retire, we went down to 5. Then when Joyce and Jean retired, we went down to 3. So we've been running it on 3 people, which puts a stress on everybody in the office. So in other words, if one of us is out, that means 2 people are trying to do everything.
What happened to Charlita?
That's why you also do not get calls to remind y'all of events. We just don't have time.
What happened to Charlita?
She transferred to engineering.
There was another girl there also.
Let me ask. Oh, I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I got to.
No, we're just trying to do one at a time. Commissioner Watkins, you have the floor. You ask a question of the clerk. I'll let her answer. Have you got any further comments?
Yes. And again, it seems like, are these 4 additional recommendations the full breadth of new hire requests from our department heads, or are we just looking out for, again, me and you at this point?
No, I think it's needed.
I'm not sure. I'm not sure to whom that was addressed or whether that was a rhetorical question.
No, I mean me, you as the mayor's office, and myself and the rest of the commissioners as the clerk of commission's office. Are department heads in other places also, and we're tampering them back and honoring ourselves? Because I don't want to be that.
No, what we're trying to do is Dr. Moffitt, our county manager, has exercised a lot of discretion and a lot of time.
Echo. Yeah.
Okay, is that better?
Yes.
Dr. Moffitt has exercised his discretion after a lot of interviews with department heads about which positions really were critical at this point, so as not to overload the wagon with filling a bunch of vacancies and then having to turn around in a matter of a few months if things don't go well and discharge people that we just hired. We don't want to get into that. So Dr. Moffitt has talked extensively to department heads, come up with a list. He's also talked to the mayor-elect, who is trying to get his procurement department up, and it'll take us 2 months to get it up and posted and all these other things. So he's trying to get that done. The clerk has made her case to you. And risk director, I just would have to tell you, yes, you're right. And I guess the criticism is appropriately leveled at me. We have moved them around. We've gone from Wanzina Jackson and economic and community development to its own little division, a department, and then tried to split it all back up. So yes, we've had a rough time, but right now you don't have much of direction in code enforcement. So Dr. Moffat's idea of shifting it over to the fire department was met with not just acceptance, but with eager acceptance by the fire department, thinking that it would make it more efficient for them as they did their stuff. So it's a administration recommendation to you as a package. So I don't know if that answers your question, but that's the explanation I would give you.
Just so I can try to ask it again. So I guess in the back and forth with Dr. Moffitt and the department head, are there other requests for new positions that?
Yes,
Okay.
yes, a bunch of them.
Yes, sir. And I have another round coming within the next 2 meetings.
Oh, okay. So definitely, I would like to place these ones we talking about, since we're gonna be doing this next week or 2 weeks from now. Let's just place these extra ones so I can see a PowerPoint on them.
Right.
Well, at this particular junction, sir, I'm
not saying no. I'm sorry. I'm sorry.
Well, I'm just saying, I know you're not saying no, but I don't know what else. Even if I do a PowerPoint, I'm gonna give you the same information. And we are at critical level in the ones I brought you first. Procurement, you yourself.
Again, I'm not disagreeing at all with the list of vacancies.
Let me exercise a point of discretion as the presiding officer. I think what we've got now is a motion to reinstate 2 of the 4 positions that would.
No, we don't.
Procurement is the only one.
No, wait a minute. I know that's your opinion, but I think Commissioner Jones, I think his motion was to add back in procurement and the clerk.
That was failed. No. Nobody even seconded it. I haven't even seconded it. I was going to do that.
That's a brand new motion he just made.
That's right.
Alan seconded it.
Right. It went down from 4. It went down from reinstating 4 to reinstating 2.
Mr. Chair.
And so Jones made that, and Wynn seconded it. So now you've got that motion on the floor.
Mr. Mayor, I move we table that motion.
Well, okay. So there's a motion to table the Jones amendment.
Can I get a second?
Second.
Got a motion by Lucas and a second by Watkins to table the Jones amendment. All in favor of tabling the amendment would say yes. Opposed would say no. And let me get the clerk to call the roll. This is to table the Jones amendment to reinstate 2 of the 4. So if you're in favor of the motion to table, you'd say yes. If you're opposed to the motion to table, you'd say no.
Commissioner Tillman, how do you vote?
No.
Commissioner Allen, how do you vote?
No.
Commissioner Bivens, how do you vote?
It's on mute.
Commissioner Bivens, will you please unmute?
Okay, I want to vote to table. Is that a yes or no?
Yes,
that's a yes. That would be a yes to table.
Yes.
Commissioner Jones, how do you vote?
No.
Commissioner Lucas, how do you vote?
Yes.
Commissioner Schlesinger, how do you vote?
No.
Commissioner Shepard, how do you vote?
Yes.
Commissioner Watkins, how do you vote?
Yes.
Commissioner Wynn, how do you vote?
No.
The
motion to table failed.
Right. Hey, so question, how much is the list coming up in 2 weeks? How much is that total worth?
Well, I don't know the answer to that. You could do some math right quick, but I don't know the answer to that.
How many positions?
But right now, you are back to the original motion. But right now, you're back to the original motion as amended by the operations and finance.
Right.
And what I would suggest is.
May I speak, Mr. Mayor?
Jones.
No. Neither of his have passed. So it's the original motion as amended by operations and finance that took all 4 of them out.
No, we didn't table.
They did, but they took, but then subsequent to that, Commissioner Jones did another amendment to add back into the original one, the 2 positions. That was tabled, or motion to table that, which failed. That's back before the body.
Now we're back to the amendment.
You're right. I'm wrong. I apologize. What you had was 4, yeses to table it, 5 opposed. Therefore, the motion to table fails. Therefore, we're back to the Jones amendment that reinstates 2 of the 4 positions.
That's right. That's right.
And what I would suggest to you, in the interest of time and everything else, you've got 90% that you all agree on that you really need to go ahead and pass, so we can get busy and hire some of these people that the department heads are crying for. If you can live with this version, vote yes and let's pass this much, get this much done. You're holding back the other 2 that you can talk about 2 weeks from now or 4 weeks from now or whenever like this. But for Pete's sake, if you can live with it, I would implore you at this time to let's go with this as amended this time and see if we can't get some hiring done in the next few weeks.
So just so
is there further discussion?
Yes,
Commissioner Watkins.
Burning me now. So in the you got to do this, but in the phase 2 recommendations, what's that amount looking like? What are we? And is there a phase 3?
Properly, but phase 2, we're going over that list right now, and I'll be putting that together in the next few days.
10 people, 20 people, 100?
No more than 10. No more than 10.
No more than 10.
There you go.
And you say a possible another 10?
It depends on what we do with the pay scale, and if we eliminate vacancies to help pay for the pay scale.
Wait a minute, I just added out. This would add all the vacancies back. Why would I eliminate what I just added? Are there some other vacancies I don't know about?
Sir, if you recall, we're averaging about 200 vacancies.
Okay. So, but those are funded vacancies. I hadn't defunded all of them. There's not that many funded vacancies in the budget.
Correct.
And I thought this was the line. I thought these right here were the ones that were like the important, if not all of the funded vacancies.
You are technically correct, but remember, we're looking at it as a whole picture, as the proper right sizing of departments and what the job functions are, because some jobs have combined job duties. That's why they've been reevaluated. So we're looking at all that and presenting a picture back to you.
Come on, y'all. It's 9 other people on the call. Don't make me be the bad guy. Y'all heard what I heard, right?
What's confusing about that? I'm bringing it to you as we agreed during the budget process. We unfunded positions at the beginning with the budget that at the first quarter we reevaluate we work financially, and we would start presenting that back to you. I met with department heads. They're giving me the justifications. If they are re-looking at realigning some job duties, this first wave was ones that we felt were most critical. And now we will, once y'all make this decision here, then we will reevaluate the next wave.
So
I've said that the whole time.
Mr. Mayor.
Commissioner Wynn and then Mayor Pro Tem.
You know, Dr. Moffitt's done a lot of work on this with other people. And I just want to kind of weigh that into this, because he's only given us 4 positions that are he feels like, and whoever worked on this with him feel are critical right now. And these people are not going to start till January. But you know what? If you're going to hire somebody good, you better start looking now. You know how long it takes to get somebody. But we're down to a compromise here is what we're asking right now for 2 positions out of the 4. But the county manager has looked at this, and he's looked at just the most critical needs. And we need to, I haven't interviewed everybody, but he has. So he knows what our critical needs are. But if nothing else, let's just go ahead and split the difference right now for at least the 2. That's what the motion is on the floor right now.
Correct. And what we've got is two votes coming up, one to approve or disapprove the amendment, and then based on that to get back to the main motion as amended. So is there further discussion on the Jones amendment, which would reinstate 2 of the 4 positions? It would reinstate the clerk and the procurement folks.
I just want to be clear, and I guess Michael's in the room with you. I want to be clear that I support funding all of these. But I think what happens is when we get on these calls and we haven't communicated with each other, then this is what we have going back and forth. I'm clear, and I clearly understand that these positions will go into effect in January of 2021. I really don't have an issue with them. I support our clerk and procurement But I do want to be respectful to those that have concerns and issues, and that it needs to be discussed and worked out. Because ultimately, I think we are going to pass all of these at some point and get everybody in. Now, the thing for me is whether the mayor-elect, the county manager, you, Mr. Mayor, think that it's critical that we go ahead and start this process, or even the attorney. I would like his opinion. I don't want to just put him in there. Like, what is the critical timeline with working with y'all? I know I've had conversation with you about procurement and the importance of that, and y'all trying to work through it. My issue of concern is which of these positions, because we did support the other ones. I think a stalemate came when it looks as though a directive was coming from the mayor-elect. And I think that's where we had a stalemate or stalling process. And so I think we just need to be honest with ourselves. I have no issue in hearing from the mayor-elect. I mean, because if he's involved and we need to hear from him on his thought process, because at this point we've included it on these calls, we've included it in executive sessions, and the county manager and you, Mr. Mayor, y'all are in contact. He has a full team. So at this point, he's on the call. Let's hear the importance. I have no issue with it at this point.
No.
Are you saying all four positions, Mayor Pro Tem?
No.
No, he's basically just asking for additional discussion about the two, I guess. I'm not quite sure. The motion on the
four.
Call for the vote.
No, the
Don't
motion.
we have
all right.
committees to do the additional discussion? It is obvious that there's a need for additional information and discussion.
Let's send it back to committee.
And well, but you keep getting this stuff
Right.
thrown up here. So
Well, where we are, listen, where we are right now procedurally at 5 minutes to 8 at night.
yeah,
Procedurally where we are is we have a motion to amend the Operations and Finance Committee version by reinstating two of the four positions that they took out. That being the procurement.
I also want to hear from the attorney on the level of importance for those four positions, and in particular procurement, because it seems like we do need them all, and at some point we may pass them. But I'm just trying to say if there's a urgency, or I'm talking about which is an urgency, and I am speaking about all four.
Mm-hmm. That's what I thought.
So I guess
Hold on. Let me see if I can address Mayor Pro Tem's issue and call on the attorney. I'm going to ask the attorney to try to respond to you, Mayor Pro Tem.
Mayor Pro Tem, I have no opinion on all four because I don't have the requisite knowledge. I do have an opinion on the procurement because my office has been working with the procurement department here for 6 months and the county attorney's office to try to bridge that, fill that vacancy left by Chauncey. And I can tell you that, and I've had discussions with several of y'all about this, that it is my opinion, and Lauren Schultz is really the one that's been handling in my office, that you do need a procurement person full-time. It will be a lot less expensive and a lot more efficient. She's doing a magnificent job, but she's not a procurement professional. And so my opinion would be that that's a good thing to do. And it's going to take a while to get that person, if you vote for it, to get that person hired. The other three positions, I don't have enough substantive knowledge to weigh in on.
All right. So Commissioner Watkins, if you had something else, let me come back to you. But again, please address yourself to the two positions that the amendment is trying to add back in now.
Michael's got the written version, I think.
All right. The two positions that you're trying to add back in now are the procurement positions and the assistant clerk position. So that's what's on the floor right now. And so if you would address it just to those two.
Just in the interest of of time, I think it would be in our best interest to split those votes, and then whatever happens, we can move on with the
Okay.
next thing.
All right.
I just want to address one more thing. So for me, I've heard the word, what can I do to make you understand? It's not an issue of understanding. I heard and decipher what you're telling me. I disagree with your direction. And in some ways, Mr. Mayor, I don't trust your direction at this point, is my issue with some of
Well,
these.
you ain't got but about 2 more months to put up with me. You got
Right.
about 2 more months to put up with me.
Yeah.
So the motion on, somebody needs to mute. I'm getting a feedback, Duke. Right. So let's get back to the issue at hand, which is the Jones Amendment to add 2 positions. Is there further discussion on the Jones Amendment?
Did
If
we
not,
agree to separate those
no,
2?
ma'am. No, ma'am. This is the Jones Amendment, and it's got two positions. It's reinstating the procurement positions and the clerk position. That's what the amendment is. That's what the motion and second on the floor is, and that's what has been the discussion. So all in favor of that amendment?
Point of clarification. One point of clarification.
Yes,
The
Commissioner,
person,
Mayor Pro Tem.
Madam Clerk and Mr. Mayor, the person that we're speaking is your would be your current secretary, who would be going over to clerk's office.
Yeah.
I'm sorry?
What we're trying to do, Ms. Carroll?
No, sir. There's absolutely. I'm unaware of that.
I thought that's what I saw. I'm sorry. I thought I saw.
I'm unaware of that.
Your clerk that was going over there. Is that
My secretary? Is that what you saying?
Yeah, your secretary.
No, I'm unaware. I'm unaware of that.
Oh, okay. So we don't have anybody in a position that we're looking at.
My understanding is she'd have to post the position and go through the advertising process and select the best qualified person.
I would.
I just hope the commission will have a say so in that with the Madam Clerk.
I know you know better than that.
Gracious. That's not germane to the discussion at hand. The discussion is hand on the Jones Amendment, and I'm going to ask the clerk to call the roll.
Speak up,
and if you're in favor of the Jones Amendment to reinstate these 2 positions, you'd vote yes. If you're opposed to it, you'd vote no. Madam Clerk, call the roll.
Yes, sir. Commissioner Allen, how do you vote?
Yes.
Commissioner Bivens, how do you vote?
No.
Commissioner Jones, how do you vote?
Yes.
Commissioner Lucas, how do you vote?
No.
Commissioner Schlesinger, how do you vote?
Yes.
Commissioner Shepherd, how do you vote?
Yes.
Commissioner Watkins, how do you vote?
No.
Commissioner Wynn, how do you vote?
Yes.
Commissioner Tillman, how do you vote?
Yes.
All right, I got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. I count 6 yeses and 3 noes. So the Jones Amendment passes. So now all in favor of the ordinance as amended with the second amendment to add back in the 2 positions, you'd vote yes as amended. If you're opposed to that, you'd vote no. So clerk, call the roll again one more time.
Mr. Mayor.
Yes, Michael.
Can I just show the written amendment just to perfect the record, Mr. Mayor?
Sure, that'd be fine. Put it up on your screen, sir.
He wants to prolong the night.
No, I think we're all ready to get out of here. He just wants to show you what you're voting on.
The corrected dollar amount of the appropriation is $606,892.87. And I've removed the
mayor's office and the risk director.
Mayor's office, yes, sir, section 9, and the fire department section 11.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
So that's what you're voting on. That's what you're voting on for. If you're for that as we have amended it, you'd vote yes. If you're opposed to it, you'd vote no. So call the roll one more time, Madam Clerk.
Yes, sir. Commissioner Allen, how do you vote?
Yes.
Commissioner Bivens, how do you vote?
No.
Commissioner Jones, how do you vote?
Yes.
Commissioner Lucas, how do you vote?
No.
Commissioner Schlesinger, how do you vote?
Yes.
Commissioner Shepard, how do you vote?
Yes.
Commissioner Watkins, how do you vote?
Yes.
Commissioner Wynn, how do you vote?
Ooh, yes.
Commissioner Tillman, how do you vote?
Yes.
All right, the yeses have it. There were two noes, so 7-2. The ordinance as amended is adopted. That takes us now to the last item on our agenda under old business, and that's a resolution to accept the grant for the Board of Education. I'll ask the clerk to read that by caption.
For the Board of Elections.
Election.
I'm sorry.
It's
Good
late.
gracious alive. It's late. I'm tired. That was my mistake. The grant for the Board of Elections.
Yes, sir. A resolution of the Macon-Bibb County Commission authorizing the mayor to accept a grant from the Center for Tech and Civic Life in the amount of $557,598 for the Macon-Bibb County Board of Elections and for other lawful purposes.
The Committee of the Whole recommends approval. Is there further discussion?
Ms. Mayor, as I said earlier in the pre-commission, when we were looking at this, I just think it's commendable that our Board of Elections has initiated some new things, two additional satellite voting places. We've had, I think, 11,000 people who voted, 12,000 people voted early already utilizing those three. They put in place a new drop box down at the federal building, the courthouse. And then they've been able to do an awful lot of other things at the Board of Elections. And because there are organizations now that are working to decrease the impact of voter suppression, which is happening all over our country and in Georgia as well. We are in this country. I think sometimes I wonder. But anyway, this amount of money is a tremendous, makes a tremendous statement because it says that there is funding available for boards of elections that want to do something to make sure their citizens get out to vote. And so I commend them for their success in getting this, and we commend this organization for being willing to put that kind of money into anti-voter suppression activities. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Lucas. Is there further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor of the resolution signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say no. The ayes have it. The resolution is adopted. That's the end of old business. And under new business, only a few items have come down thus far. But again, as I always tell you, be sure and check the agenda. Comes out Friday afternoon to find out if additional items have come down out of the county attorney's office. The items that have come down thus far is a resolution to recognize the month of November 2020 as Native American Heritage Month, sponsored by Commissioner Elaine Lucas. I'm going to refer that to the Economic and Community Development Committee. Item B is a resolution approving a request for the installation of 6 streetlights in Windmill Plantation subdivision pursuant to Article 10, Chapter 29 of the Code of Ordinances to be paid from the Facilities Management Budget Services to Government Electricity line item. I'm going to refer that to the Facilities and Engineering Committee. Item C is an ordinance to authorize budget transfers in the amount of $23,810 within the Public Defender's Office budget in order to provide for certain contract staff salaries, benefits, and fees, as well as the purchase of legal publications. I'm going to refer that to the Operations and Finance Committee. Item D is an ordinance to authorize a supplemental budget appropriation from fund balance to the Tax Assessor's Office in the amount of $21,300 in order to provide for travel and hotel expenses associated with meeting in-person professional training requirements. I'm gonna refer that to the Operations and Finance Committee. That's all of the new business that has come down thus far. But again, check your schedule. We will have our meetings next Tuesday by Zoom. So we're still trying to social distance. Does anybody want to point a personal privilege? Hearing none.
We are meeting next Tuesday.
It's by Zoom.
Okay.
Right. So it'll be teleconference by Zoom again. You'll get an invitation from the clerk's office. Any other points of personal privilege or parliamentary inquiries?
Let's go home.